Make sure everything's good to go. Sounds good on my end. Looks good. Hello, welcome. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the office hours. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your humble host, space bartender at the AstroPub. Well, let's get to the office, shall we? Hopefully you can hear me. Looks like it's good. Feels like it's good. How y'all doing? Axis, thank you very much for that 8 months of support. Welcome to the office hours, ladies and gentlemen. Office hours is a live stream where I stream from YouTube and to Twitch. And we talk about Star Citizen lore, Star Citizen news, mostly focus on the news, but we just kind of do everything. It's an AMA stream, analysis stream, a talk show. If you have questions, I'll feel free to ask them, and I'll do my best to answer them. Jay, how you doing? I forgot I had this playing in the background and suddenly heard the voice to the music I was playing and freaked me out. Yes. Dick Laser. I think that's what it's supposed to be. Nas, Pappy, Sli-Fi, Leroy, Death Trooper, Francisco. How y'all doing? Welcome, everybody. So I'm going to try to be positive, but I'm going to also try to set some expectations. Because I don't think CIG is either willing or able to. Not that I don't think it's intentional. I think CIG just doesn't know. But I also think that they have a problem where they don't want to pull the trigger because they don't know on top of hand, so they'd rather err on the side of goodwill rather than err on the side of caution. So, hey, congratulations, Axis. You just got to keep streaming, and the key part with streaming is if you're streaming. By the way, everybody go follow Axis 0096 on Twitch. Do it now. Is finding a place to kind of level, and then once you've got that level part, it's building on that momentum. Bring us back down to Earth, Beltaloda. I'm about to drop a rock on the Wawalas. A big old rock on the Wawalas. Sasuke. Hey, Jimmy. 3.318's not coming. Not today. Hey, Red, how you doing? So we're just getting starting. Hey, Ionic, how you doing? Outlaw Knight. Hey, Acigen. Sparkplug. Hey, Alphonse. How you doing? Alphonse. God. They don't know Sasa nothing. How y'all doing? I don't have anything to show off for paints because I really haven't done anything. I'm in the process of painting up some Storm Boys for my orcs, but no models for today. Maybe soon. Aimless, how you doing? Well, canyons have feared piling. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that. Hey, Darsh. Hey, Spooktooth. Welcome back. It says tells me your first time in chat. Can't believe CitizenCon is next week. It's crazy how fast time flies. Yeah, I'm gonna probably cool off on a lot of content as we get towards CitizenCon. I got a lot of other things to worry about, so. Lore question for you, Paul. Since Star Citizen doesn't have FTL communication, what data running ships does the UE Navy use? I'd imagine they need a specialized ship for this. You'd be surprised. Up until fairly recently, the UE Navy didn't even have a specialized explorer ships. So they probably are just using like vanguards, to be honest. Vanguards or other ships like that. They could be using Star Runners now, because they do have contracts with the UE Navy, but we haven't heard explicitly about that. We haven't heard explicitly if they use MSRs. MSRs, in fact, were used slightly differently. First time on Twitch chat, usually watch on YouTube. Oh, there we go. Was the Carrack a UE Explorer ship? Yes, it's the first UE Explorer ship. Because the UE never built one before, and they started using cruisers as freaking exploration ships, and when they lost a goddamn cruiser to an asteroid field trying to do exploration, they're like, hey, maybe we shouldn't do that anymore. Do you feel like 318 is still being still being in Evo yet? Might be hinting at a rocky live release with IAE. You're jumping ahead, but yes. We're going to talk about that in extensive, but I want to go over it piece by piece, explain each piece, how it functions. I'm going to do a little capsule for it. For those who don't know who do capsule, I do sections of this. I film for YouTube and then put it on as a YouTube video. You mean a high-ranking officer didn't crash it into a planet? That also happens? Admirals have a problem with gravity, Darsh. They just have a problem of gravity. That's why my joke about their ego is so big they believe that they gain their own gravitational pull. I find that UEE admirals in lore tend to be much more like European commanding officers rather than like American commanding officers. Like, usually if you're completely incompetent, it's difficult to rise the ranks unless you really know someone in America. But like the whole old traditional, he's a lord, give him a generalship. You know, that's that kind of mentality in the UEE. They don't have a lot of good officers. To be fair, there's like, as we talked about in the latest Lore Citizen podcast, there's likely something like 9 billion people in the UEE armed forces, at least. So when you have 9 billion people, you're like, we have 9 billion people on the planet right now, and there's not an insignificant number of idiots amongst us. So the likelihood of having some morons in that crew are probably fairly high, even morons with officer ranks. Yeah. We did the calculations because I believe 3% of the American Armed Forces, American Armed Forces represents about 3% of the United States population. And because it's fairly, if you use the US as the base for you know, these sorts of societies, you're probably 3% of the population with an upwards of at least modern Earth's populations on the core worlds like Terra and a lot of the other planets. You're looking at least in the core worlds about 100 billion like UEE citizens. So if you took 3% of UEE citizens of at least 100 billion, not even counting the other higher, you're getting close to like between 3 and 9 billion humans on in that kind of thing. They have an entire planet that's dedicated to prisoners, Darsh. It's called Quarterdeck. Well, I guess it's a moon, technically, but... What are the odds of 318 going open PTU on the day of CitizenCon? Low. First wave PTU, maybe. Maybe even CitizenCon, or maybe even Evocati. But we'll see. Cargo Factor and Salvage are bundled together. A fun fact. Sort of, Max. Sort of. We'll go over that as well. There's a reference to UEE and the MSR literature about the UEE using them for strategic information couriering. I'll try to find it. Yeah, if you can find it, it'd be a good idea. Because I know that the MSR specifically was that one of their big marketing things was they had it run the Abel Baker Challenge twice. And the thing about the Abel Baker Challenge is it's very fucking illegal. So it probably wouldn't be a good idea to run your ship that you want to sell to the government through a very illegal, very, very well-known race. Twice. Hey, it's loring time. I love it when Paul lored all over the place. Hey, BGD. Question, if Stanton is mid-low sec and Pyro is null sec, shouldn't the third system not be Castra and be high sec system like Terra? Terra needs love too. Castra's a mid... No, you're not going to have Terra until much later, Spooktooth. The reason why is it's too iconic in the game and requires a ton of work. Hey, Sli-Fi with that massive gift sub bomb. Thank you for that freaking 10 gift subs. Let's do this. Yep, Core deck is loosely based off of Fiona Fury 616 and Alien 3, so probably. Like a lot of stuff in Star Citizen's based off of Aliens and Blade Runner, so. As long as they don't announce it at the beginning of CitizenCon, it's not like they're gonna they've never done that before. Thank you, Sli-Fi, for all that. You're too generous. And Agent Shrike, thank you for that Prime sub. Used by United Empire of Earth, UENN, in blockade running operations, the Mercury is fast armored ship capable of reporting small quantities of valuable goods, strong encrypted information from Galactipedia. Okay, so that's new from the Galactipedia if it's not in there. So yeah, and then yeah, the info running for the UEE is the Starliner. But again, the Starliner was only made a couple of years ago, so it's very new. Which goes into the fact that there's actually I've got a theory that the UEE is finally getting finally unfucking themselves, at least militarily, but just in generally. They're finally getting to things they need to that they've been lacking for a long time. Military exploration ships and pathfinding ships, more diverse, but also more specific roles for ships. For the military, and less emphasis on a single manufacturer and more emphasis on multitudes of manufacturers that use similar products. Blade Runners and Aliens are in the same universe. Not only technically. There's nothing that's ever put them in the same universe. Like the creator of Alien, not Aliens, Alien, and the creator of was it? Were they the same? I'm trying to remember because I know Aliens was completely different. That was same guy who did Terminator. James Cameron, right? James Cameron did it. There's an extra on the Prometheus DVD that mentioned it by name. Yeah, well, that was after the fact. Fun story. Universal, I believe it's Universal Soldier, also takes place in the same universe. May have just been named Soldier. No, it's not Universal Soldier. I think it's just called Soldier. Yeah, Soldier. Soldier also takes place in the same universe. 1998, had Kurt Russell in it. Yeah. Yeah, Levski is badass. Every new ship is every new ship in new in lore as well? No. There's a bunch of there's like a lot of ships are old that they kind of not retcon, but they backdate. So, for instance, most of the Drake ships that are recently come out have been recently made, like the Corsair, the Kraken, and I believe the Vulture as well. And the Mule are all new in terms of new in the market. But a lot of the new ships that came out are actually older. Like, for instance, the Scorpius is technically new, but it's been in development for a couple of years, like 10 years in the universe. And the MSR is new. I think of what else is there. The 600i is not new. The 600i is old, actually. It's just a re-release recently. Hey, Jaybird, how you doing? Oh, Snake Plissken, yeah. I know SSO, Siege of Orison platforms have fucking good security systems. Then that means lore-wise, the main cities in Stanton should have similar security systems. Most AA platforms should be covering the main cities. Mostly, probably. Generally speaking, a lot of these systems have good defenses, but it also depends on the system. The main cities aren't necessarily getting attacked on the daily. So, like, at least at a couple of the references in lore, there haven't really been there aren't many, like, anti-aircraft platforms in Terra, for instance, because there just doesn't need to be. But in places like Stanton, which are privately owned, yeah, it makes sense. And there probably are a couple of them in Hurston, though I doubt they have too many of them around Loreville. And I don't think Microtech has them. Yeah, Universal, I get them confused because they both have Soldier in them. They both released in the 90s. But it's Soldier, not Universal Soldier. Because, like, Universal Soldier takes place in our actual universe, so. If I recall correctly, the 600 was the third largest ship to come out of the PU, and it flew through the concept in live in 9 months. Yes. But its actual origins date back to... the 600i, fun fact, is the first ship that Origin ever released in lore. And it wasn't the 600i, it was just called the 600. And there's a time period which CIG has refused to specifically address, except for mentioning lightly in one passage, and then has heavily implied through a bunch of other ship releases, which is the time period between the end of the Mezzer era and about the mid-2800s, about 2850-ish. There was a time period when a lot of ship manufacturers and ship parts manufacturers went out of business because they were all heavily tied to the Mezzers. I'm not going to go over the Mezzers except for they're space fascists. They controlled most of the family that controlled humanity for like 300 years. They weren't really good. They eventually collapsed. Yeah, space dictators, you know. And so this time period of about 50 years is when all of the major shipping manufacturers of the verse that we see today were formed and started releasing ships. It's when the Hull series was first created. It was when the Starliner, or not Starliner, the Starfarer was, not Starfarer, Starlifter, the Hercules was first created for this time period. It's also when the Caterpillar was first released. And the first ever Origin ship was released during this period as well, which was the 600. The Origin 600 was a cargo ship. I shit you not, the first Origin ship was a cargo ship. Why? Because they needed cargo ships, and because that was the one like manufacturer that like all of the cargo ship manufacturers had gone out of business, and all the parts that would help feed them. In fact, Aegis was in a serious shitty situation because a lot of their parts were not being made anymore. The only people that made parts for Aegis ships that didn't die was Bering and Hurston Dynamics. That was it. Everybody else had gone out of business. And how the fuck Hurston stayed out of that collapse, I have no goddamn clue. Having big guns to shoot down ships makes sense if there's less for it to crash into. Yeah, exactly. So what's on the schedule today? We're going to watch ISC, and then we're going to do a bit of a kind of a recap of what is in 318 and what's not, and why we should understand why it's in good stuff. So, Juan, hey Juan D, how you doing? Ralph Lauren, are you trying to say? Is 318 coming out before next year? Yes, and you all probably won't like it. This is weird to me that the Cat and the 600i came out around the same time. Yeah, Caterpillar and the 600i. It wasn't the 600i, it was just the 600. And then recently, when Origin cemented itself as a luxury goods or luxury ship manufacturer with the 300, they decided to re-release the 600 and call it the 600i. And they gutted the interior of the 600i. They kept the exterior and then made it into a luxury yacht. So what a 600 is, a 600i is a converted cargo hauler. Hey, thank you so much for them biddies there, Brack. Hello, hello. Hey. Well, that's the funny part, is that Origin did not have a humble beginnings at all there at Inferno. Origin originally made engines for the super wealthy. They built engines for RSI, and RSI made nothing but, or not nothing yet. RSI has an entire division that's just makes space yachts. They've been doing it for hundreds of years, which is always so like, why is Origin the only ships companies that makes luxury ships? And why the only luxury ship that we have from RSI is the freaking Phoenix, which is a converted Connie? Why don't we have the space yachts of RSI? Because they should exist. Heck, even Anvil could technically make them. They have a couple of those in their design specs. But they made engines, high grade engines for luxury yachts and the like military. Like a lot of the Aegis capital ships are actually Origin engines. RSI and Aegis capital ships use Origin engines. I know, but it's like, but like, that's the thing, is like they decided to go super like pedestrian to try to get into the market. That's how important that cargo crisis. I call it the cargo crisis, but it's a huge part of that. So, question: if Stanton is the first private-owned system, does that mean there shouldn't be we shouldn't have shipyards? At least some platforms in Crusader and other places, cities look like shipyards. Yeah, there are shipyards in Stanton. Half of those places that look like skeletons, those are shipyards. What do you mean we shouldn't have shipyards? I don't know what you mean. The reason why you don't see any ships being built in those shipyards is because of AI constraints, not because of anything else. Anvil could convert a Carrack into a space yacht. Well, no, the first ever Anvil ship was a space yacht. Technically, it wasn't Anvil at the time, it was Case Aerospace, but it was a sloop. Small little space yacht. Oh, and then Stunner comes in with 10 subs. Thank you so much for that, Stunner. What about Crusader engines? Crusader is very new on the scene. Crusader was only formed in the early 29th century. So they're basically only a little less than 150 years old. Yeah, a little less than 150. I just wish the luxury mission and ship tag and not meant to standalone game loop. I will probably see it. Paul, I'm saving my pub coins. Why don't you have 30K reward of all people? Yeah, I don't know. You can see high-end Origin transport model of ships, something more a whole sail to Challenger, the Starfarers or Hercules ships. Well, that's the thing, is like Hercules or the Starliners, the Genesis Starliners are like high-end to middle class. We don't have the poor, like the we just get a seat in a plane and go kind of ships, and we don't have the ultra luxury yachts. We have the 890 Jump. The 890 Jump is a super yacht, not a what am I trying to think? Not a cruise ship. Also, with new Twitch issues, which do you prefer, YT or Twitch? I mean, the reality is that I get more views and more, I get more income on Twitch. But if I factor in my, my Patreon, for instance, with Twitch or with YouTube, as my YouTube side of things, I earn about the same amount of money on either. So Right now, I don't care, but if you want to, if you want to follow the pub longer, if you want to follow Paul Shelley longer, then you make sure that you're subscribed on YouTube to both my Astro Historian channel and the AstroPub, the AstroPubLive, and of course, follow it here on Twitch. I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon, but if you're asking, hey Paul, what's the best way to support you? Patreon. Patreon gives me the best cut out of all of them. It's like 93% of the funds that you put in there goes to me, and only like 6 or 7% goes to Patreon. YouTube gives me a 70-30 split, so there is memberships on YouTube, which I gotta update more emotes and stuff like that. And I do stream to both, so. What about only lore? Not yet there, Darsh, not yet. The Astro Bus. I'm a big fan of having a variant of the Freelancer that's just a cargo, like a people mover. That's something we don't need until we actually have people moving in game, but just take the back of a Max and throw some seats into it. Lore Hub, ooh, the Astro Hub. That's what my wife calls me sometimes, the Astro Hub. But yeah, if you really want, Patreon is the best place to do it. It all sounds sexy. But AstroPub, I thought the best way to support you was to send you Warhammer figures. Yes, that works too. You can do that too. All right, let's get into the actual ones. I don't think any one ship brand should be luxury. All manufacturers should be able to offer something they want. Yeah, it's true. Get a seat and go to Cuddy Steel. Yeah, that's true. It works too. So it means we need a lot of other bombers out there. It depends on your term of bomber, like, or bombed out, like a bombed out when you bomb out a like a hot rod or something. I don't think anyone. Okay, I've said that. I can see Misk or Drake being the low to middle class passenger ships. I mean, as was pointed out, the Steel is kind of that already. Clarification, I wish the luxury was a mission variant that only ships with the luxury tag can do. Not how it seems to be the route the CIG is taking, where the luxury is going to be its own gameplay loop. Not really. I think luxury is going to have some of its own aspects, like moving people. VIP missions will be a thing. I'm sure there'll be other aspects to it too, but I follow you like everywhere. That's fine. I also want the and for stealth and criminal. Yeah. When I was in the Navy, they just slid rows of seats into an AC-130 and used it to transport large groups. Could that with the Hercules as well? They could, for like a troop transport variant. But I think likely what CIG wants to do in that case is make some sort of deployable material. Like, instead of building a brand new bespoke ship, having something that they can just like a cargo box, effectively, that's just a seat. Something that is the same as cargo, like as physical as cargo, but it's like a row of seats. Think of it like kind of like the bleachers you see, like the metal bleachers you see at sports games that are like deployable. Astro, I'm sorry, it's bugging your collar button on your cam undone. No, they both are. Oh no, it isn't. Thank you. It's bugging me. I didn't catch it. Thank you. There we go. If you aren't following Paul on Twitter, you should. I don't know. I am very unfiltered on Twitter. Some people are very concerned by following me on Twitter. I do not hold back my takes. This is my personal Twitter, so like I have my own personal takes, including things that people don't like. I mostly talk about gaming and stuff like that, but everything from politics to entertainment to just fucking just go. 1-800 FBI open up. Is there anything about the lore about that made the why Aegis made the Reclaimer? No, there literally isn't. It feels like a weird for them to be mystery ships. I would have guessed the Drake ship. There's no lore for it yet. I'm sure there will be, because I mean, Aegis also makes the the Vulcan. Yeah, make the Vulcan. So they do make support ships. It's just weird that they made a ship that has nothing to do with military aspects, and it really doesn't fit with the Aegis aesthetic. So I think we'll see. I think they'll come up with a reason for it at some point. They'll have to come up with a unique reason, but it's hard to tell. There's no lore behind the Reclaimer at all. Honestly, the content creators need more support from the community. You guys have been around carrying this project for about 10 years now. Thank you, Red. The thing is that, as I've always said, in every content creator I've ever talked to will reiterate this point, we're not fucking special. We're just people with microphones and cameras and brain rot. We have problems that we use to get out on content creation. And we find our own ways of doing so, being creative and stuff like that. So we're not anything special, but most of us will see ourselves as reflections or amplifications of the community, specific communities, parts of the community. I'm not going to say no to helping, to getting more help. We all need more views and help, but the time will come at some point. That time will come at some point. Seek for yourself, I am the SC Messiah. Vulcan makes sense for military manufacturer, but the Reclaimer makes me scratch my head. Yeah. I think the honest answer is they made the Reclaimer because early CIG was rule of cool down the line. And they just liked the idea of being like, okay, well, who would make this? The Aegis would. Fuck it. I mean, fuck the Redeemer. I hate the Redeemer, but that's just another thing entirely. It's not about going the easy way. Star Citizen never does easy, especially luxury ships, which people pay so much money for. I think it's actually to a detriment of CIG. CIG will never do the easy thing, even if it's the best option, which confuses me. I think as of recently, a lot of CIG has been, like, at the last 3 years, CIG has been trying to get away from the easy, the bespoke, figure this problem out on our own situation and just going with what is easy and simple. Like, this isn't the first inventory attempt. The paper doll inventory, there's been lots of crazy ideas that Chris Roberts had, and they eventually just said, let's just do a paper doll. And I know people hate it, but it's what Tarkov uses. It's what Arma uses. It's been around for a long time. It works. So whenever I hear someone say, I wanted something different, I'm like, I don't give a shit. It fucking works. In fact, I don't want to, like, at one point they said you would be able to open up the tops of boxes and physically load the boxes with things inside of them. And I've been very clear for several years now. It's like, I don't care about that. Just give me access to a box that I can put stuff into for my inventory and I'm okay. You don't need to physicalize everything for us to make it fun. Like, some things need to be automated or be things that are still like a video game, so I don't have to sit here for hours trying to load things by hand. Didn't Aegis make the Starfarer with Misk? No, Misk made the Starfarer entirely on their own. And then the UEE was like, hey kid, we like that. We're gonna buy it. And Misk was like, oh, okay, we have no goddamn idea what we're doing. And so they turned to Aegis, who was already in the shitter, in the dumpster with the UEE, and they said, Aegis, please help. And Aegis was like, yeah, sure, kid. Just head it over and we'll militarize it. We know what we're doing. But it was like all sides were confused. Because it wasn't like Misk came to the UEE with this option. The UEE came to them and just said, give it to us now. And Misk was like, I'm not going to turn down the money, but at the same time, they're like, what are we going to do? We've never done anything military. And so they turned to the only people who had done military, were free, and they could talk to right away, which was Aegis. And so even Aegis was like, sure. And the UAE was like, what? They got what they wanted at the end, so everyone was okay. Hey, Ash, how you doing? I want legit Tarkov like paper doll inventory. It's the perfect way it is. Not related, but I had a burning question in my head. Okay, give it to us there at some point. Well, do you think CIG will magic wave intergalactic travel since there's only 3 to 4 aircraft carriers in the game? That doesn't seem like it's more Lagrange, more large ships coming. There'll definitely be more large ships coming. It's just that it's harder for them to focus on large ships because they've got other things. No, it wasn't even, the UE didn't even take the Starfarer to Aegis. Misk did. The UE came to Misk and said, hey, Misk, we like your style, we want this. And Misk said, I'm not going to turn down the fucking money, but then didn't know what they were doing, so they turned to Aegis and asked Aegis to do it for them. It was a Misk decision, not the UE's decision. Hey, how's it doing, Infrarunners? Hey, X. Y'all, how was your stream? No, they're not gonna change intergalactic travel. There's no way. You're just gonna get a bunch of common ships, and you may not like this answer, but this is the answer. No, you're not gonna get large ships into the game before Pyro releases. You're just not gonna be able to use your light fighters in Pyro when Pyro is out. And you're just gonna have to wait until the other ships that can carry other ships show up in game. The advantage is that the Idris is done. And same with the Javelin. The only reason why they're not in game right now is because the Squadron 42, they're both in Squadron 42 first. But those who own Idrises and Javelins will get them. And we will eventually get the Polaris and the Banner Merchantman and the Liberator. It's just going to take some time. But CIG's got nothing but time, because 4.0 ain't coming out until next year at the earliest. Yep. This is where owning a 300 series, because they've got pretty good range, owning a Vanguard or a Freelancer or even a Cutlass is going to be a lot better, because range will matter. I'm sorry, your Arrow and your Gladius are really overpowered, but they're going to suck without support. How am I going to get them around there? I'll have a friend with a Starfarer. That's it. Have a friend with a Starfarer. Oh, that means I'm going to have to work with other people. Deal with it. This is a multiplayer game. You're going to have logistics teams. I have been screaming about this for 2 years, and people told me to shut the fuck up. You are going to have logistics teams. And now finally people are realizing, shit, how am I going to get my overpowered light fighter around? The answer is, I'm going to explode. I'm just going to explode. The Starfarer is the answer. The thing is that the Starfarer is meaningless right now in Stanton, but as we go forward, that stuff's going to matter more and more. Logistics doesn't just win wars. Logistics makes the economy run. The modern world economy, in fact, all economies throughout history, all societies throughout history have had to have good logistics to even function. A great example of this, the Incan Empire. The Incan Empire is filled with dozens, if not hundreds, of villages and cities and towns all throughout the Andes Mountains. Now, here's the problem with the Andes Mountains. They're fucking mountains. And if you live on a town on top of a mountain, it's good for defense, not good for growing anything. You're not going to have a lot of food. So your population is never going to be able to get too big. But if you're part of a large alliance/empire where you can get food imported to you pretty effectively, then you can grow pretty much exponentially as long as you have that food going. So the Incan Empire was very strict about how to trade and maneuver facilities. They had incredible logistics, and they built these insane roads that still exist today into the sides of the Andes Mountains, and like rope bridges and such, all without use of the wheel. Like, they built this huge logistics train to keep their entire empire running in some of the most harsh conditions of the planet. Preacher brother Al, thank you, Informers. Thanks, Al. be fair, AI Starfarers will probably exist someday, but not in 4.0. Yeah, that's true. You made fun of whales, and now they'll be your transport to Pyro. They won't be your transport necessarily. They'll definitely be your support. I love my Gemini, and I can't wait for Alpha Services, Pyro and beyond. Yeah. That's why the Mayan had large road systems as well. That's why every empire has large road systems. You think Rome could have survived without its large, extensive networks of roads that would, Rome doesn't have a lot of farms around it. It does, but not nearly enough to support the population it had. They needed to import food. They needed to import luxury goods, everything from all over every corner of their empire. That's why Constantinople ended up becoming more important than Rome. There's a reason why capitals move, especially in places like China, where it's very difficult to grow food, or Japan, where they don't have a lot of arable land in the first place. They move their capitals often to places that are easier to get food imported, if not grown. AstroPub, the place you find the best Star Citizen YouTubers. I just try to have be entertaining and get as many people as I can who are interesting and new. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, Fishy. Light fighter transport in a Pyro, it's 890 jump with the C2 or the M2. It's not. It works. And then there's me, Darj. You have this insane categorization of every single ISC and around the verse that has ever been filmed and released, with all of the details of what's talked inside of them. People forget you do that. Hitler's Autobahns, Mussolini's, and trains running on time. Yeah. Yes, he's also a meme master now. Darj is, if you've seen that Always Was Star Citizen version that's been around Reddit, thank Darj. That's all Darj's stuff, aka Icebone on Reddit. Off topic, did Twitch allow us to dual stream when we're affiliated? No. They just don't enforce it. Everyone does it. Well, at least in the Star Citizen community. The only reason why I've been doing it is because people like Board has been doing it for literally years. All right, let's hear this. I'm going to be a bummer with the whole logistics necessary thing unless CIG gives us really good reasons for several jumps away from civilization that need long-term occupation. Players won't need it. What do you mean? I mean, if you want to go through Pyro, you're going to have logistics. Because let me lay out the scene for you. Pyro has at least 5, probably more like 9 different gangs that control the majority of Pyro. Pyro itself is 3 times the size of Stanton in terms of its just area. In order to traverse through Pyro, you're either going to have to fight off 9 different gangs or get to know one or a few of them. The problem is, if you know one gang, you're going to piss off all the other gangs, so you won't be able to run in their system. And don't tell me this is, oh, that's a hopium copium pipe dream. It's something that was done in Freelancer, and it's something they're already trying to do in Star Citizen in the next couple of patches. It's something they're planning on doing. It's likely going to happen by 4.0. So having allegiances to certain groups is going to be very important in Pyro as a whole. And at least until the near future, the best places to go get resources and the best places to get certain items and the best places to sell certain items, probably really cheap goods in Stanton that's really expensive in Pyro, is in Pyro. So the best way to make money is to buy cheap in Stanton, sell cheap and sell expensive in Pyro, buy cheap in Pyro, sell cheap in sell expensive in Stanton, sell high in Stanton. So those routes are going to start becoming incredibly profitable because CIG will want you to go there. And as a result, you're going to see people who are going to have to go there to make the most money. Stanton right now is one system, so CIG is trying to make it as fun and engaging as possible. But once Pyro comes out, your money-making opportunities in Stanton are going to go down the tubes. You're going to go very, very low in terms of how much money you make. Probably not impossibly low, but they're definitely going to slash some of those earnings significantly. But why are you in Pyro? Why are you traveling multiple systems? That's what I'm saying. Players need a reason to stay far away from civilization. Money. That's what I just said. Money. Money. Hey, Desolus, how you doing? After 6 months, after making this wonderful art piece, Desolus. By the way, this is made by Desolus, if you didn't know. I always remember when Desolus comes into the stream, but I always forget when he's not when they're not here. But this whole background, people ask many times. This is Desolus's. How you doing? Hold on. I'll give you the answer. You know what the answer is? That's wrong. Here we go. This is a better one.
Oh, you! Shut your mouth and look at my wad! Loads of money!
That's why.
This is a journey into money. Loads of money.
People who think they're just going to hop into their ship and jump around the universe whenever they feel like it don't understand what the idea is. You're going to have to fuel, sustenance, repair infrastructure, supporting you and do anything in your local areas. Yes, and not every player is going to want to or need to play in Pyro. Many people will. Yeah, there will still be some scalpers left in Stanton selling overpriced trip tickets to Pyro. Eve is a great example. Logi is critical in Null. Because you have no support that you don't bring, and you want to stay out of there. Because Pyro has jump points to all systems, otherwise, yes. Just sit at the jump point of Stanton and pirate people going back and forth. What about passing through Pyro? A direct QT to the next jump gate. Do you think that they plan on planets being so much of an obstacle that you can't pass through them without a fleet? No. It's just you're not going to, if you're going through with a fleet, you're going to need support. If you're going through individually, it's going to be a little bit easier because it'll be harder to see you. Just been slammed with work. Took a little break from Star Citizen 2. Probably a good idea, Desolus. How will we transport mined Quantanium from Pyro to a refinery station? Carefully. Quantanium is not supposed to be as valuable as it is now. Quantanium is common as dirt. Well, not dirt. It's as common as gold. Gold is valuable, but it's not difficult to find in large quantities. It's just rare. So Quantanium is something they even said has to be popular enough, has to be easy enough to find that you can mostly refuel yourself with the right tools, as long as you can find the locations. But it has to be rare enough that it's not super common that it's not valuable at all. Quantanium right now is valuable because they wanted to make it valuable. Do not think that Quantanium is going to be the same value when Pyro comes out. The whole plan is to sell weapons and components from creative procurement specialists for things like fell off the back of a whole sea. Imagine the leader of a 300-person org in an org v org battle over a system or a planet at that point join the military. Dustless, how do we get you to make some of execute murdering old man Hurston? I don't. He's a 3D artist, not necessarily a character artist. There, X. A convoy, yeah. Good morning. Or crowshying old man Hurston. Get crowshawed, son. Get crowshawed. Old man Hurston will be in Stanton, raising cattle, herding catgirls, whilst manufacturing Evercrack. That is true. If you don't get any of these references, watch the latest Lore Citizen podcast. It is filled with memes that will endure forever. And then watch the latest Captain's Table to know, get crowshawed. Traversing Pyro will be a thing of trade routes, the time sensitive for Oso and Castra. Hold on, I gotta do this. Oh, God damn it. Terrapin best wall strip for Pyro? Probably. Between that and the 315p, I think would be the queue between the two. But the door is probably going to be very valuable too for the freelancer. And the MSR. There are stations in Pyro? Yes. There are multiple small stations in Pyro that are akin to the current stations we have that are at L points. And then there is one large station, which is the Ruin Station, which is the main landing point. All right, good at this. Is Pyro safe? No, it's never been. Yeah. It'd be floored if CIG didn't build multiple reasons you want to travel through Pyro. Exactly. The thing about how CIG plans on building the universe out is that Pyro is a medium jump point, but it'll be a faster route to some areas if you're going through surrounding systems. So I think there's a jump from Pyro to Terra, and there's a jump point from Stanton to Pyro. But otherwise, there's like one other. Well, there's also I think there's a jump point from Terra to Stanton as well. But if you're say you're going to Xi'an space, right? There's a jump point medium jump point from Stanton to Pyro, from Pyro to Nyx, and from Nyx to Tohill, and from Tohill to Xi'an space. And there are multiple jump points from Nyx to Xi'an space. So if you want to go under the radar, and if you're transporting goods that aren't necessarily legal, which will make you the most money, maybe to or from Xi'an space, calling it now, the day of the SRV is released, asteroids will fall on Lorville. Probably. I don't think you'll be able to get to SRV grab those, though. True, but it's difficult to transport and essential to the economy. Yeah. On the opposite end of the spectrum from Pyro, what kind of gameplay do you think we would expect from more heavily populated systems like Sol or Terra? Low-paying, high-value, or high-quantity jobs. So you're likely going to see box delivery missions, basic like criminal missions, like collaring low quality criminals. You may have some high quality criminals, which will be a little bit more difficult to deal with, but very low paying jobs, but high in quantity. So you'll never run out of jobs to do because there's just so many people that need so many things. So if Pyro is not a lot of missions, but a lot of like freeform resources and other things that can make you a lot of money, Terra and Earth are going to be filled with, or Terra and Sol will be filled with lots of small missions, which won't make you a lot of money, but not a lot of freeform things to do. You're not going to be going mining the asteroid belts of Earth. You know, you're not going to be going to the Oort Cloud and lassoing comets. It's just not going to happen. Quantanium is Texas tea. Yeah, I mean, that's literally what it is. Quantanium is oil. And the reason why we use oil for combustion is partially because it's really efficient, but also because it's cheap. Comparatively to other energy sources, it's cheap. So, same concept. I imagine CIG has new resources and things to find and buy and sell in Pyro as well. Of course. I legit think most players are going to stay out of around one system from decent hubs, even with selling. You're not staying away. Probably. You're probably going to stick into one system pretty closely for most of your jobs. But I think long term, that won't be an option to make enough money to gain resources quickly. The best way of advancing yourself in terms of reputation or money is going to be leaving the one system, going to other systems. In fact, you're probably going to stay mostly around one planetary system and then move out to other planetary systems in that system and eventually out of that system entirely. And reputation is as important as money. So you're going to go where your reputation chain for the type of jobs you do will take you. Is there an official lore on the armor set of Star Kitten? Yes, there is actually. It was done as a promo with Kastak, specifically kind of like a, you know how you have like Hello Kitty on some like more less child friendly clothing and stuff like that, more kind of like not rebel but like or outlaw, but you know that kind of non-conformist sort of attire that's sold by I forget the name of the company, but the company that makes Hello Kitty. Same concept. Same reason why there's a Hello Kitty Star Kitten Dragonfly. Do you think Addison was CIG trap? She sounds so good on paper, but with her AI will kill us by the thousands. I don't think she was a CIG trap, but I think if you talk with old man Al Hurston, he'll or just Algorid, he'll tell you that he thinks that in theory she's up to no good. But could the Mustang Beta start to see practical use because of Pyro? Yeah, I think that for sure. If it wasn't so ugly, I'd use it. Do you think they're currently working on multiple Star Citizens? Yes, I know they are. We all know they are. They're working on Pyro. They're working on Odin, and they're working on Nyx. At least those 3 systems right now. 100% guaranteed they're working on those 3 systems. How much they are working on those systems, but they're definitely working on those systems. Medium jump point. As far as I understand, that means up to size 3, i.e. Carrick, jump. No, not a clue. The problem is that CIG themselves has been inconsistent on the size of jump points, so we don't know. The going theory that I tend to ascribe to is that the jump points, the size of the jump points corresponds with either the ability of a certain size of ship to be able to be moved 2 at a time, so a Carrick or an Idris. Or a Carrick being able to go one way and a Carrick being able to go another way without hitting. So a large ship just below subcap being able to cross one another. Or a single capital ship being able to travel through, but no other ships coming the other way. Because we know that Xenothreat has been moving Idrises from Pyro to Stanton. And Idrises are not small by any stretch of the imagination. So, my main issue is that many prone to think that they're going to be staying out with No Man's Land for weeks and months, but I don't really see that since they're not getting, we aren't getting shipbuilding. People are going to go out there for weeks and months because they want to. Fuck if it's profitable or not. They're just going to do that. Didn't they say that size was more of a difference in stability? No, that's the other theory that Jail and Al tend to agree with, which I would say number 2, which is how stable it is, but they've never confirmed it. The problem about jump points is we know the basics of how jump points work. We know that they cross through interspace, which is similar to what quantum entanglement uses. And also regen. Regen uses the same concept. But we have no fucking idea other than that. And that they use gates sometimes, and sometimes you don't need gates and that stuff. Pyro Hadrian, Pyro Terra, Pyro Oso, Pyro Kano, Pyro Stanton, Pyro Nyx, and Pyro Castro. That's a fuck ton of jump points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Fuck, that's this many as Stanton has, or as Terra has. But yeah, Castro's important. They also have Hadrian, which is the border system of the Xi'an. Like literally right next to Xi'an. If you want to go to Hadrian through, you can go through Terra, but that's a shortcut if you're going through Stanton. So there are going to be some shortcuts you'll be able to do with some of those things. Shipbuilding is no, but for mining or exploration, etc., it depends on how much money you're making. I see what Inferno is going for. What he's saying is some people think you're just going to be out there for months without resupply, and the answer is probably not. if you're there to make money.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Hey, Minstrel, evening. Hope you're all doing well. I'm doing good. Looks like 7.1 points in total. Yeah, which is huge. That means it's the second most jump points in the game, in all of the UEE. Like, Terra has 7 jump points, and it's the literal crossroads of the Empire. It's like where all trade goes through. The fact that Pyro has 7 jump points is pretty big. It means that
hunting is a complicated profession.
I wouldn't be surprised if in the distant future, the UEE is like, hey, we're going to liberate Pyro because it's such a huge point. But I guess because it's so close to Terra, it doesn't make that much sense. And not all the systems it goes through that much. And I want to be a cowboy, space cowboy who lassos.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
I think CIG is going to incentivize moving to less secure systems as kind of no-brainer. The safe systems are effectively starter areas. Yeah. What we're looking for is punk, I believe. Well, no, not really punk. Because punk in my mind is like, you know, mohawks and studs, and they're usually like kind of that. But I don't think you see too many punk Hello Kitty outfits. You'd see some more like, I don't know how to put it. Like urban, I guess. Inner city styles. But that's also too generic. It'd be more like West Coast urban, would be my experience. Larger jackets, you know, that sort of thing. Hello Kitty thongs, yeah. You'd buy Hello Kitty ballistic armor, yeah. You think Origs will be able to have fleets that members can use? Probably. They were too far away from some of that. I have recently been thinking of Star Citizen in terms of existing game mechanics, and in gaming, I've started thinking about most players going to be disappointed. I just want players to think about what's reasonable. Inferno, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, you're thinking about existing game mechanics and not what game mechanics are going to be when Pyro comes out. Because I understand thinking about what if Pyro came in right now, but we know that's not going to be the case. It's going to take a couple more patches before Pyro comes out. And by then, we're going to have more extensive stuff than we do now. Maybe not much more, but we know that they're already developing things like Reputation. We know that they're developing things like Quanta. There's a bunch of different things they've been developing which are important to support Pyro. So you take that back. What did the Mustang do to you? Listen, the Bangstang was beautiful and wonderful. It had a Netflix and chill couch. It was mwah, and then it turned into a prison bus. It's so cold and harsh inside that thing. It sucks. Sorry for spamming YouTube. Character limit is hurting me. I got you. Wooden. Do you think you'll ever see good movement physics in Star Citizen, like Metal Gear MGS 5 or something like that? Hard to tell. Do I believe Pyro is done? No. They've said that Pyro's not done. They're still working on stuff. I think the planets are done. And a lot of the systems, the stations are done. But the AI mechanics, the landing zone is not finished. There's lots of stuff they got to do. Addison's AI paw. It's a T90 in disguise, down in disguise. Do you think CIG is developing quite fast last 2 years than the prior years? Yes. Last 2 years, they've done a much more development on Star Citizen they've done in previous years. Every patch has had significant updates and improvements in performance. Like, I cannot illustrate how good performance has gotten in the last 2 years. It is significant. Like, if I had the ability to go back to 3.5 or 3.6 and then compare performance in 3.6 to 3.18 or the 3.17.2, it would be night and day. People just don't get how bad Star Citizen was in terms of performance. The inventory system alone has improved the game significantly. As much as people hate the inventory system because it's clunky and doesn't work all the time, it's fucking better. Like, everything that's been added in the last 2 to 3 years has significantly improved the experience of Star Citizen. The hang-up is server tech, not the system construction. Yep. They've actually just been able to do stuff faster because they're building the tools for it. I think the only thing that was Freelancer is the biggest ship that could fit through a small. Yeah, that was well early on in the development, though. Paul, with how popular battle arena type games are, do you think CIG missed an opportunity to get this by spinning off Star Marine and Marine Commander as a standalone games? I do, but that's just my own thing, Isogen. CIG missed the mark on a lot of stuff. They might be able to shift stability to so large equals very stable. They'll have to come up with their own. Like, there's no even lore on it. So if there's no lore on it, then they haven't solidified the ideas yet. They'll come up with it at some point. Starcitizen took days to go to Stanton's son. Citizens took days to go to Stanton. Yeah. Can we crash inside the jump? Sort of. Yes. We don't have 100% good confirmation about this. You can explode inside the jump point, though, yes. Basically, Pyro is the middle of the important systems within UE space. It's right next to, yeah, it's like basically right next to the hub of UE space. It Nyx has 6 jump points, I think, lots of options. Yeah, Pyro is a big crossroads, yeah. Sounds like it'd make a really good spoke of the wheel of the first 8 systems to me. Yeah, I mean, that's the reason why I think Castra is on that list. Stanton is a good starter system overall. Castra and Magnus are good additions. Nyx obviously is going to be put in there. Probably Odin at some point. But, like Hadrian at some point too. But we'll see. They're mostly small jump points, and the only large one is Castra. Yeah. Punk is a state of mind. It's anti-man. It is, but like when you say punk in terms of like clothing style, it elicits a very specific type of clothing style. Also, be clear, I really enjoy Star Citizen. I just hear so many people acting like Star Citizen is going to be everything since CIG isn't clear about what the game is. I don't take that into account in modern gaming. I get what you're saying, Inferno, and I get what you're saying. I just say, look at what CIG is planning to do and what they're developing, what they've showed off. And, you know, at the very beginning of the year, they started showing off things like the Quanta system being able, or the reputation system being able to get you to a point where enemy, like the outlaws in Stanton will attack you randomly, or if you got a good reputation with the outlaws, then they'll ignore you in combat, and vice versa with the law enforcement. And that's obviously prep for Pyro, where they want the same thing to happen with the AI in Pyro. I really think UEE doesn't care about liberating Pyro because virtually no person will attack UEE if they decide to move in military force across Pyro. Like, no Pyro group would try. I don't think there's enough large jump points in Pyro for it to matter, as someone pointed out. Henry Rollins is punk. He would not wear Hello Kitty. I guess some of these very empty-looking systems will add another small planetary bodies to flesh out the systems, like moon, dwarf planets, asteroid fields, comets, etc. Yeah. But I think the UEE would consider Pyro a security risk with jump points to Terra. They do. They already send UEE forces in there routinely to attack. Especially with Xenothreat. I wouldn't be surprised if you ran into a couple of UEE task forces that were sent into Pyro to go fuck shit up at some point. Probably even with an event in Pyro. The reverse Xenothreat. But instead of you fighting off Xenothreat, you got to fight off the UEE. Hey, Paul, any chance for utilitarian people cargo transporter from Argo? Like something that Southwest Airlines, Star Citizen could afford instead of a Starliner? Possibly. If they tend to focus on things like people movers would be up there, but it would be local people movers, like something that move between planet systems, nothing long term. Yeah, then they fucked it up. Yeah, Bang Stang was my first purchase. The little Rise Up TV, man, I missed that thing. We all miss that. When I say game mechanics, I mean mechanisms that exist in gaming, not specifically Star Citizen in general. I could see it's very easy for them to incentivize it. Just make more money and reputation. To be frank, people playing Star Citizen now are spoiled by performance. Yeah, 15 FPS was normal in 2.6. Yeah, and we liked it. Okay, enjoy, folks. I have to head out. Later, Al. We've got a huge performance boost in 3.17 vanilla. Got like a 60% performance everywhere. Even 30Ks are now been... Yeah, I forgot about death 30Ks too. They're no longer a huge problem. There's also a great chance of spin-off of Theater's War, but alas, yeah. I believe Star Citizen will invent new mechanics. If the current ones don't meet the needs, then the other publishers will be... Why didn't we think of that? I don't think it'll be prevented out of whole cloth, but I think they'll take ideas and run with them. Question, do you think we could have office hours in Star Citizen, open schedules? Possibly. Magnus, it's my hometown. All-seeing Oracle, what are your predictions of what we'll see at CitizenCon? We'll go over that here in a moment. There's a schedule, yeah. Xenothreat 24/7. I've honestly considered starting doing rein in your expectations, but in a realistic, non-hateful way. Videos is as fun thing, even though I'm not a content creator. Do it, Inferno. Do it. The key is how you present it and how you just discuss it. As long as your clickbait is strong, you'll do well. UEE threat, yeah. Operation Fuck Around and Find Out. Menace of the UEE. I still like the idea of being on the other side of the fight with UEE, seeing like a Bengal carrier and being like, fuck me. God fucking damn it. Like, the invasion of Nexus is a big example where the UEE just ignored Nexus for hundreds of years, and then finally they say, oh, this thing happened and we look bad, so now we have to invade the fucking system. So a bunch of people who'd lived there for their entire lives, maybe 3 or 4 generations of people who lived there, away from UEE space, and suddenly a Bengal goddamn carrier group shows up. Yeah, fuck you. I'm gonna fight for my goddamn land. And they wonder why there was so much bloodshed in Nexus when they tried to invade it. Maybe don't invade a system you have no business invading. Yeah. The clickbait is strong with this one. Don't think they'll make it so you can't pass through enemy gang-controlled space, i.e. KOS effect. Will be limited to encounters on missions, just too impractical to block off stations by rep. Not really. It's very practical for them to block off stations by rep. In fact, if anything, CIG, that's something that's right up CIG's alley. Wait, you mean I can't travel the entire system? Nope. Get friends. Get fucked. That is very much up CIG's design alley of being like, bring a friend with a Starfarer. I think being criminal anti-UEE will be more fun gameplay style. I think a lot of people like that. I'm not sure why everyone wants to gain domination over me. Because they love you, Pyro. How you doing, buddy? What if they made the UEE incursions in Pyro a 2-sided event where you could help the UEE or you could fight the UEE? I don't think CIG would do that. I think it would be more the opposite side, but we'll see. All right, I'll be right back. And then we'll do looking at ISC, and then we'll do the whole thing. So don't go anywhere, y'all. And I am not going to turn off the fun button, so you can all enjoy the... If you're watching this after the fact, mute until I come back, because Twitch chat is going to go nuts spamming voice emotes. So, enjoy that.
Everyone.
2 words. Distress bacon.
It was at this moment that he
Humanity is
knew.
a complicated
He dropped
profession.
down.
2 words. Distress bacon.
Weapons free, y'all.
Cajitas where?
I'm flying.
2 words. Distress bacon.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
I'm flying. I'm pilot.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
I'm flying.
Cajitas where?
Distress bacon.
At this moment, he knew. He walked out.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
I'm pilot. I'm fly. I'm pilot. I'm fly. I'm fly.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
I'm pilot. I'm fly. I'm pilot. I'm fly.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
words.
I'm pilot.
Distress bacon.
I'm pilot. I'm fly. I'm fly. I'm pilot.
Yes.
I'm pilot.
Distress
I'm
bacon.
pilot. I'm fly. I'm pilot. I'm fly. I'm pilot. I'm fly. I'm
That's
pilot.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
Mellow. I'm fly. I'm pilot. Mellow. I like mellow.
distress bacon.
Hello. I like mellow.
It was at this moment that he knew. It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Good news, everyone.
Weapons free, y'all.
Everybody in
It
his
was
dog
at this
bones
moment
are
that he
wrong.
knew. He fucked up.
That's
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
I'm fly. I'm pilot.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Good news, everyone.
that's
You're all timed out. No more. Fun time is over. No more fun. This is I am CIG. No more fun. I should have hit the add button. I forgot to do that. Add time. I'm kind of curious if my actual skills as an aircraft maintenance engineer will transfer over to repair. Probably not directly. There'll probably be some aspects, but probably not enough. Some of the basic stuffs, like don't walk in front of a freaking active engine. There might be some stuff like knowing which way fuel's supposed to run and how fuel pumps work, but probably nothing beyond that. The very basic stuff, probably not like complicated stuff. Engines hot? Yeah, probably not a good idea of doing maintenance on engines when they're hot. That was the most spam I've heard. Well, I'm back now, and I turned it off, so. All All right, let's watch the most important video of the day, and then we'll move on to my little spiel about what you should expect with 318.
It's a time of change here at Star Citizen. The Frankfurt office has moved into their new digs. The Winslow office prepares to migrate to Manchester starting next week. Our CitizenCon presentations are looming just 9 days away. And much of the focus of our development teams at present is in preparing for the upcoming Alpha 318, with persistent entity streaming that serves
How do you think regeneration points will work in Pyro? Like we have now, but you're going to have to know those people. We'll go over that here in a moment.
This is the foundation not only of server meshing in Alpha 4.0, but everything else in the persistent universe as well.
I'll chill out for a moment. If you have questions, like I'll try to answer them after this. So just keep it on that.
And since Alpha 318 is now scheduled to arrive in the first half of November, and ISC enters its regularly scheduled hiatus the next few weeks, we thought we'd take the opportunity to try something new with our last episode of the quarter. A follow-up to each of the 318 related feature segments that we've done this quarter, looking at how they've continued to grow since we last showed them to you, answering your questions that you had after watching, and rolling them all into one big supersized report that we're calling the ISC follow-up. Because we're really, really good at naming things. Enjoy.
It only works the first time there, Jared. Sorry, just improve the naming.
So since updating you on the rivers earlier this year, I've been focusing on the visual quality of the rivers themselves, so that when you explore them, they are looking better than ever. I think the biggest visual change I've introduced to the rivers is the new cliff spawn points. Previously, where we had steep edges along the river, we just had the terrain texture that we get on steeper parts of the terrain. But I wanted to kind of increase the visual fidelity of this by spawning cliff meshes along the edge of it. So that's exactly what we've done. For the cliff mesh spawn points, we add a new spawn point at the height of where the terrain would have been if the river wasn't there, so that we can control where the top of the cliff is relative to the edge of the terrain near it. And that's these red spawn points you can see here. When I turn these back off, you can see we have cliff meshes that look as if they're the right height. You can walk onto them from this terrain here, while still providing a nice kind of closed-in gorge for this river. And actually, we were so happy with the results of adding additional spawn points around these gorgy areas that we decided to add more spawn points along the edge of normal rivers as well, so that we can get
these gorgeous areas. Thank you, I'll be here all week.
Rocks right along the edge of the water to break up the silhouette between the terrain and the water. You can see those points here, and when I turn back on the scattering, you can see what that looks like. So as you can see, that really helps to break up the silhouette of the water, but also makes the whole area feel denser and more real. Another visual improvement I've worked on for the river is using more splines with the river modifiers. Instead of just a single central spline along the path of the river, we now have a spline for where each of the edges can be. And this gives us much finer control over how the terrain should dip down into the river, which is what actually matters rather than the depth at the middle for most cases. But it also means that we eliminate some of the effects we were getting at sharp bends. What we used to get at the sharp bend of a river was a pinching effect in the middle here, where the terrain would jump from referencing a point somewhere here on the spline to referencing a point somewhere here on the spline. So you can see that they're basically equidistant from a point over here, so we'd either be referencing the terrain from one or the other without ever kind of passing through this middle bit. Now that we have a spline for each edge, we can pick which edge is closer and then more closely reference that when picking the final height for that part of the terrain. And it just means that the edges of our rivers are much, much cleaner. We're getting much less in terms of artifacting that we were seeing before, and the overall result is just a lot better in my opinion. I'm really excited to see all of the new rivers come into 318 very, very soon. Put a lot of work into improving the visual quality of the rivers, as well as improving the tooling for our artists to be able to place more and more interesting rivers. Our tech artists have been hard at work for the object presets for the rivers to make sure that we're getting really, really cool distributions of objects around them. And I just think what we're going to see in 3.18 is going to be a cut above what we've had so far, and I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks all.
That's good. This is, and before anyone gets on their high horse about this is important to keep in context. The guy who's doing Rivers is a Planet Tech guy. That's his job, is Planet Tech. So him developing Rivers pretty much by himself, as far as I understand, maybe a handful of other people, is a sign of how the tools are in place to help doing this. And he's helping build these tools in the first place. So we can see this in the future, because river tech will eventually become lava rivers and roads in the future. Just like caves were evolved from space stations. People don't remember that the systems that were built to build space stations eventually built caves. And underground facilities. So they're all the same tech.
Since the last time we spoke about the PTV racetrack, it's been...
so many tech and work with no gameplay involved, because they're not the same people. The people who work on the background tech are not the same people who work on gameplay. And they need a significant amount of work to be done on the pillars of the game before they can start working on the gameplay. Because there's no point in building gameplay for systems that haven't been existing yet. But it's a lot easier to build a river or a racetrack, because it's simpler. And it gives those tools for people who are designing it time and experience with the engine. But it is.
Mostly just bug fixing. For the most part, it's been like the usual occasional collision issue we had to fix up. Also, there was like instances where RQA testers just took the card and went off the track and like drove into the elevators and got into other parts of the level. So I see
CIG has been hiring from the community again.
had to go around and fence off all the areas where people could leave the track. Also, just in some cases, inside the track, there was little shortcuts that could be taken. So also these ones had to unfortunately block them off, so nobody can gain an unfair advantage. One of the things we didn't discuss last time is where the buggies actually come from. So they're not something the players bring themselves into the space. There is this little side section of the track where they spawn, and you take them and then just kind of bring them over to the starting line and start from there. And when they're destroyed, then they basically respawn in that section again. So there's always 8 buggies for the players. I can't wait to see what players will do with it once they get it in their hands.
It'll be very interesting. It'll also be chaos. I think I predict the first release of PTU for all players, there'll be nothing but exploded and burning excuse me. PTVs everywhere, with people running around in hospital gowns and dancing on the track and trying to get hits so they can get people can get crime stats. It will be complete and utter mania and chaos that CIG does not understand. And then eventually people just stop caring because they'll not go there because it's too chaotic, and then people will start using it for what it's supposed to. It's just how that works.
Since the last time we spoke, Korea has changed a lot in its environment. We've been sort of building up and sort of breathing new life into it, making it on par with some of our other locations in terms of branding and sort of how we want the player to...
Hold up. Is that fucking cookies? Is that cookies right there? Chat, tell me those are cookies. There's like brownies. It's hard to tell.
Sort of how we want the player to move through the space. With this, CS1 and 2, Crime Stat 1 and 2, are no longer going to be things that get you shot or get you, stop you from landing at a location. These fines will essentially just be like mini slaps on the wrists. Law enforcement will comment on them when they stop you and tell you to go pay your fines off, but they're not going to be as big of a meaning as they once was. Alongside the last time we spoke, Korea has changed a lot in its environment. We've been sort of building up and reading feed law enforcement it once was. Alongside this, we've also added other ways for the players to get rid of their sort of criminality. The fine kiosks that you can find all around now have a button that allows you to surrender to law enforcement. This gives you the 20% discount of your time served when you go into prison. And as always, this is going to go live and we're going to continue iterating on it, reading feedback and making improvements. So when the...
All right. Thoughts on this? That's exactly what all of the info runners pitched. Down to the almost to the like changes in surrender. I don't think we talked about the surrender, but we talked about CS1 and CS2 need to be fines. I know it's not what we said specifically. We weren't the only ones to say it, but I'm glad that the rest of the community around Star Citizen has basically said the same thing. Just get rid of CS1, CS2s being insta deaths. Doesn't make any sense. This is a good temporary solution. Long term, they need to fucking change this. Like, holy shit. The CS system's garbage. It sucks. It needs to be attached to rep by tomorrow, or it should be a serious fix, because it's unimmersive, it's dumb, and it's too simplistic for the game that's as complex as Star Citizen. Criminality needs to be a lot more nuanced. It needs to be a lot more interesting. I shouldn't just be shot at because the future tech of Star Citizen can mind read that I'm a criminal somehow through a ship. Like, that shouldn't be a thing. There should be reputation obviously attached, and there should be some levels to it. And the CS system shouldn't be as arbitrary as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We don't have that system exist in any country in the world. There's not as an arbitrary system of you have criminal status 5. It's like, no, you have felonies and misdemeanors, and they exist on certain levels, and they have certain levels of threat range depending on what you've done. But there's no like criminal status record, as far as I know, in terms of highly dangerous to like nothing. There's no like rating, universal rating system like that. Doesn't make any sense. It makes sense for something like gameplay when it comes to bounty hunting, but for players, no, that doesn't make any sense.
First video released, and we was talking about Klesha. I was watching HC Vertigo.
Hey, Vertigo!
And he pretty much nailed the mission and who was given it. So I'm not going to spoil it. I don't want to let you know, but yeah, if you want to find out who it is, go check out HC Vertigo.
That scares the shit out of me that they're watching Vertigo for tips. That scares me. That fucking scares me. Elliot first drops references to Ralia and now to Vertigo. I am scared.
Since the last time we talked about Klesha and the new updates to that, things are going along nicely. We have AI walking about. They have loot on them. They're making the environment feel more alive. The black spot is in. The mission is working. In the mission, we've...
Love and appreciate your work. Thank you, Roland Dahl. Yeah, no, they're watching HC Vertigo to see how to break the game next. I joke about them watching us and taking tips from us all the time. It has nothing to do with taking a shit on CIG or any of those creators. We all get concerned sometimes because we all get involved. We get so immersed in talking about Star Citizen and hanging out with the community that I forget some people who are regulars on my channel are CIG members. So I'll say shit and then I'll get yelled at later by people. Like the last time I talked, I was so super tired. We talked about cap ship teams, and I knew like there was no such thing as a cap ship team. My brain was just dead. Because I talked about this past. There's two teams for ship-based teams, one in the US and one in the EU, and they can only do so much at one time. But my brain went to just stupid bullshit. So I got yelled at for that.
Added routes coming out of the wall so that even though people might know how to beeline it out of there, now they have to figure out how to get to this place they've never been to before and break the route they're normally used to, and then have to rejoin, which is the difficult part because we always make the rejoining bit harder and they can fall all the way down or, you know, whatever. So that.
Hey, Astro, wondering, did you happen to read the Expanse books? I read up to 6. I didn't read the last 3 because I didn't care for the time jump.
That's it for the updates to Klesha. Check it out when you get a chance.
How have the caves changed since we last spoke about them? Just some bug fixes and some polish work. So, yeah, they're done.
That's this fastest. They're just done. You enjoy them.
So it's been a couple of weeks since the last time we talked about the Daymar crash site, and since then we've mostly been polishing and debugging. We had a go-no-go during which everything went smoothly. We actually noticed during playtests that the missions were too easy, so we just did some tweaking. We had.
How am I supposed to add that to my spreadsheet? Just say, sand caves are done. That's it. That's the tweet.
Added some AI. On the level art side, they were working on some LODs, so how far the objects are going to display. We did a better navigation pass for AI and for the player, and I think we tweaked a little bit the cave, but there's just a crash chip in there, nothing else. We've also been working in integrating all the missions, so there's going to be 3 missions on the Daymar crash site. There's going to be a kill specific, a kill all, and a delivery missions where you need to go in and gather some loot crates and deliver them. We've also been working on changing up the AI that's there because currently it's the Ninetales and we wanted to add a little bit more diversity in there. So we're working on adding in the Sand Nomads, which are probably not going to be here for this release, but possibly the next one.
Siege Islands.
Since we last talked about the Siege of Orison mission last week, we forgot to mention
Orison. Orison. Look at me in the eye, Elliot. Or is on Orison. Orison. Fucking people do it to me all the damn time. Paul, you mispronounced it. You mispronounced Larona is supposed to be Yarona. It's like, I don't know. Don't get on me about that.
there's also some missions just coming to the islands that the Siege of
Orison. No, it's Orison. It's an actual word in the English language. It means prayer.
Orison takes place on. So these missions are going to take place on the islands when Siege isn't active. The missions we have you doing will take you from building to building, eliminating a number of enemies, or maybe taking out a high value target. These missions are currently just like a prototype. They're very basic. They're just kind of exploring what direction we want to go at for these and other islands. So these will be another small addition when 3.18 goes live.
Todd Pappy rhymes it with Horizon. Well, Todd Pappy's wrong. They even say it in game. There's an ad that plays 5,000 times on every single station you ever go to. Orison. They say it in fucking game. Everyone in game calls it Orison. Why does the developers call it Horizon? Oh, that's pretty cool though. I like the like mini boss missions. Go kill this big guy kind of thing. That's cool. Good night, Dawnstar. Good night.
So there were some questions after we released our last ISC where we talked about hull scraping, and there are some things that I can clarify.
I hope there's enough gameplay on these islands so I can stay down there instead of having to go back and forth. Now, you're probably going to have to go to a single, because it's only a single island. I think you're just supposed to go to the single island and go to an area and clear it out. The question is more, will it be worth it? And I think with Call to Arms, yes, it will. Money. But it's just going to be probably not as time efficient, but you'll probably be up there with other things. especially if you like FPS. Tomato, tomato. Speaking of CS, the main thing I'm looking forward to that won't be in 3.18 is Bounty Hunting V2. New shop will get rid of the player markers, the god markers. Yeah.
From our position. So what makes a Reclaimer more profitable or better in comparison to the Vulture? For T0 there is no real difference. So the only difference there is you have more space to store your scraped off hull material. But the proper differences only come with Salvage T1. So once we talk about munching and actually like converting.
Me, I'd like to surrender, please. I have a coupon. 20% off.
Proper ship debris into smaller bits. The size of the Reclaimer is definitely an advantage here. Some comments were all asking about how can we use the scraper beam in an offensive manner. Technically you can, but you have to make sure that the target ship has its shield deactivated. So as long as another ship is shielded, you will not be able to touch the hull because there's like this energy field that is protecting the hull. So there were also some questions on the repair side, and sadly this repair iteration isn't the full fleshed out repair that you might need if your ship is fully destroyed. So if you lost a wing, the wing is lost. If you lost your engine, the engine is lost. So your magically repair gun that right now is taking the hull material to create new hull material, so this gun isn't able to 3D print you an engine, a fully functional engine with all its parts. So what it does is just cover-ups of like your hull. So it increases your health of the ship again, but only to a degree where it is reasonable in comparison to what the hull actually stands for. So the material that you gather with the vehicle can be converted into the material that you use for your multi-tool to repair ships. There's one more thing. So we saw that you were already asking for what about players that are not interested in any combat scenario or in waiting others to shoot themselves to shreds and then picking up the debris pieces for profit from the hull scraping. Well, we have a solution for you. And well, the miners of you might already know it. So we will expand our harvestable system to also facilitate to spawn fresh derelicts. And what are fresh derelicts? Basically, they are just the husks of existing ships that have a probability to spawn in asteroid fields or basically around all the Lagrange points. And you will be able to find them using scanning and then approach them like you would do with a mineable.
Yes! 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 Return it back to its original state. That of garbage.
And that is coming in Alpha 3.18.
So, what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that
you did that for me, didn't you, CIG? You probably didn't, but I don't care. I'm gonna take that win.
that when you show a feature the very first week of the season, there's lots of room for additional improvements like we saw with RiverTech. That QA can be just as squirrely as players when testing the arena racetrack. That Correa is looking pretty fresh with its Crusader makeover, and that changes to the law system will make Crime Stat 1 and 2 less troublesome to deal with in the future. In theory. And that while hull stripping won't be the offensive weapon some folks were theorizing,
the Redeemer is trash, C-Daddy. You know it. I'm not going to say otherwise.
using the harvestable system to generate non-combat wrecks will be a welcome addition to the more peaceful-minded citizens out there. Now don't forget that CitizenCon is next Saturday, October 8th at 8 a.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. UTC. It's shaping up to be a really informative quarter day, and not just visual updates that you've come to expect, but more design and gameplay presentations that'll lead the way in the Star Citizen's future. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. We'll see you next week at CitizenCon.
Oh shit, that is next week. Fuck me. Oof. All right. I'm looking through the end. I don't think there's anything else out there. Not this Saturday, but next Saturday, right? It is October, yeah. I thought so. So, for those of you wondering, we're going to be doing a 24-hour captain's table after CitizenCon. The day after CitizenCon, I'm going to be doing 24 hours talking about kind of like a year in review with Star Citizen, talking Star Citizen overall, talking about this about CitizenCon, that kind of stuff. So, Saturday, October 8th, Omega. And I will be streaming before CitizenCon goes live, and I will be joining Loken Plays. He's going to be doing a broadcast watch along of CitizenCon. I'll be joining him on his channel for that one. And then after CitizenCon, I'm going to be hanging out, maybe streaming a little bit with a couple of the folks from Atmo Esports for a very special event that I've been told about a couple weeks ago. So it'll be cool. Stick around for that. Yeah. Good report. Should the releases at the end of each set? I think they should in general, yeah. In fact, what I'm going to be doing next Saturday morning when we're doing Captain's Table, when we're waiting for everything to go live, painting this bad boy. So, I'm glad I don't have any preconceived prejudices against the Redeemer, so I can, evident my shipping those actually an endeavor. Enjoy my ship. Inferno. Fuck the Redeemer. That's all I'm gonna say. Just fuck the Redeemer. Time flew by since last CitizenCon? Yeah. I think, yeah, we are getting a very special episode. Stop! No, I'm not going to. I've not stopped for 3 years. Well, technically I haven't stopped since the damn thing won, so. Love how much do you hate the Redeemer? So someone asked earlier what I'm looking forward to with CitizenCon. And honestly, the speed one is what I'm looking forward to. They're variable speed ones, the master modes that they're doing. I think that's going to be the one that everyone talks about. No one cares about it right now, but I think it's going to have the most impact on the average player. And most people will be talking about it forever because half the community will think it's great. Well, I should say 30% of the community will think it's great. 30% of the community will think it's literally the worst thing that's ever been added to Star Citizen, and it needs to be removed right now because it removes their immersion, because it's not realistic enough, because it's too complicated. Just list off the number of reasons why people complain about this game. And about 40% of the people will be like, that's going to change a lot. That's about it. My Redeemer is scraggly, an endeavor in disguise. It's actually an endeavor in disguise. Okay. Where do you watch CitizenCon? It'll be live on Twitch, on Star Citizen's main Twitch channel. I don't know exactly what time, but it's going to be on Saturdays. Probably noon, would be my guess. And I'd expect it to be at most 4 hours, probably more like 2. I really hope CitizenCon 2023 is in LA. I want to go there to go to one finally. We'll see. I'm pretty certain it will be. Is it 8 a.m. Pacific time? Oof. Oof. Fuck me. All right. I'm going to have to get up really early that day. Do you remember how long the last CitizenCon was? 3 hours? 4 hours, maybe? It's a cut down version because there's no keynote, so there's no like hour-long presentation. And each section was like 20 to 30 minutes long, I want to say. Some of them were a little bit longer. That's a really shitty time to be doing it. 8 a.m. Pacific is super early in the morning for anyone. No, it's not too bad. It's not 10 a.m. my time. That's not too bad. I was thinking the opposite way. No keynote because they didn't want to spend time to build a keynote out, which would basically be the same keynote as you had last year. Because nothing significantly has changed on that front. Because everything has been focused on server meshing and PES. So there's really nothing for them to show because they probably haven't built much since then in terms of Pyro. They built some stations out, but that wouldn't be a very interesting thing to see because stations are basically the stations we have now, but with a kind of pirate outlaw grunge skin applied to them. So. Is my after show only on Twitch? It'll probably be on both. I have yet to determine if I'm going to stream it or not. I might, depending on what's going on. But yeah. Yeah, that's the reality. We're not going to get a Tony Z. We're not going to get a Quanta thing. Nothing like that, so. Yeah, I get it, Jada, but it's also super early in the morning for those folks in, or super late at night for those folks in Australia and in Asia, so. Is that model from the JRDF site? It is indeed. JRDF, I've known them for a very long time. They make really good models. I am not a good painter in comparison to a lot of people out there. This is not as good as I wanted it to be. I should have made it a little bit better, but I didn't have the paints for it. I thought I did. It's mostly just purple. I tried to add some accents with blue, but it didn't work out that well. Probably should accent it with white, but it turned out okay. If I had another one of these, I'd probably redo it a little bit better. If you feel you suck at painting, you're going about, you Google a bit of Picasso. Picasso's great. He's just impressionistic, that's all. What do we know about crafting so far? Not a lot. We know they want to do it, and don't expect to be building ships. You're not going to rub two sticks together and build a missile. You're going to need the right components for those sorts of things, and you're never going to build anything more than weapons or guns in terms of size. Remember, too thin coats. I know. The issue wasn't the coats. The issue was the color choice. I wasn't used to painting purple, so I didn't realize how dark that purple was going to be. What I should have done was based it in white and then painted it purple. And then had purple dye or purple contrast paints to go over it and get into the seams and such. Maybe even done it white and then purple contrast paints. And then the highlight should have been a lighter pink or like a white. And the details should have been much more like contrast, like completely different from purple. So more like yellow almost. Well, that would look bad. But you know, that's sort of the opposite side of the color tree. Hey Astro, do you know how I can get a Perseus model? They don't make a Perseus model yet. JRDF has been told by CIG not to make any models that aren't currently in the game. So they won't make a Perseus model until the Perseus comes out. CR talked about Crashland survival gameplay recently. Yeah, that's the overall goal, but they need to have A, more survival mechanics, and B, more crafting and gathering mechanics. All that stuff is very basic right now. I just might make a joke reference to a model painter. I swear I wasn't trying to actually mess. No, I know the joke of 2 thin coats. I know the joke. 2 thin coats. I forgot his name, but yeah, he's brilliant. I watch all his stuff. We need parachutes, yeah, too. I got it, Celine. I just I have this inherent ability to move past jokes. Because I like process jokes and go, that is a joke. I'm moving forward to see how I can incorporate that into discussions. No rubbing a gun into a pile of dino waste to add operational holographic sites? No. Paul, do you think most players are going to react to PES not having any noticeable impact in gameplay in 3.18, since if server crashes, we won't go back to once it spoils back in? I think most players won't care as long as performance is increased, but I do think there'll be a subset of players who will be pissed, but those subset of players are already pissed. That, like, there's really 3.18, and we're kind of getting to the territory of the thing I'm going to talk about with 3.18 in general, which is do not expect 3.18 to change anything, because it's not going to change anything. Nothing fundamentally player facing will change with 3.18. You'll get some salvage, you'll get some other bonuses, some other small things that have been added, gameplay stuff. But effectively, you're not going to see much change beyond what we saw with 3.17. What color am I going to paint the Freelancer? That's a good question. I'd probably try to go with the purple again. Ooh, purple and red. Well, I guess that could work. I have to go get paints this weekend to go get that, so. Because I'm not doing Captain's Table this weekend because I don't need to. So what cargo refactor stuff will be in 3.18? We don't know. There, let's do that. Let me go over this. Let me get my materials out so we can go over this one more time. And then I'll go into detail about what to expect 3.18. I probably already did this video before and released it, but but I'm definitely going to go over it more specifically so we can go into this. Okay, roadmap. Deliverables. At least few. There we go. All right. All right. Here we go. Y'all ready? This is a capsule, so I'm going to be talking to the camera, not at you, chat, but I will take questions from y'all after I do this. So here goes nothing. Hello and welcome to another Office Hours capsule. That's right, capsule, a tiny little segment of my Office Hours live stream that I do on Thursdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Actually, you know what? I'm going to stop this real quick. I got to do some stuff real quick. I'm going to set the ad to go off right now so you don't have to worry about it. Because I got a warning about it, so. We'll be back. Just so you don't get yelled at by ads. Let me see if I can do the settings. I don't think I can do the settings while it's this. Not yet there, Fishy, not yet. There we go. Perfect. Think about the Redeemer while you start. He doth the stare. Yes. Well, gamers don't read, especially not in video titles. They don't read. They do read video titles. They just don't read them well. They read thumbnails better too. I've considered Crusader and Corsair, but I'm not into the mandatory tinnitus that you get when you buy the ship. I love my Corsair. All right, we good? We good? Ads done? Ad time over? Chat, you good? It's over. All right, let's do this again. Let me fix this. Screenshots. Gonna delete that. Oof. Let's go. Hello and welcome to another Office Hours capsule. That's right, a capsule. This is a small section of my Office Hours live stream that I do on Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can come join us on twitch.tv/TheAstroPub or youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive. You can check right here. That is chat. Say hi, chat. Say hi to your future selves if you're watching this later. These are little sections that I pull out specifically because I want you to come watch me live. Join us for conversations. It's an AMA hangout. We watch the latest ISCs. We read the latest, all of the latest news. We discuss stuff, discuss lore. Lots of different things happen. So I'd love for you to join us live there if you get a chance to. But if you can't, that's okay. These are recorded, but I know 4-hour live stream is usually too dense for people to pick up. So I try to do these little sections to give you an idea of what these are like. So if you want to watch that later, you can. But, you know, maybe a little taste before you come on in. So with that all being said, remember, if you're enjoying this video, if you like this content, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're liking the video and spreading the love around, and a little bell icon to get noticed when these videos go up immediately. And with all that being said, let's talk about 318 and expectations. So 318 is about to come out. It's important that we set expectations for 318 in terms of what we understand, what's going to be happening, what's in, what's not, what's the game going to look like, and should you come back to the game or start the game with 318. I'm going to do this video now, and then when 318 comes out later, I'll do this video again, kind of before and after sort of thing, and I'll even correct myself if I was wrong with some factors. But I want to make sure that people have realistic expectations for what's going to happen. Based off of my experience, I've been following, if you just found this, I've been following the game for years. Several years, almost 9 years now, and I've been making content for this game since 2016. So I have been very close to development for a very long time. So I'm not just some fly-by-night dude who's never done this before. This is what I've been doing, making content mainly for a while. So note that before we get started. But the very first thing we got to look at is the roadmap, because the roadmap will give us an idea of what CIG believes, has a good solid idea of what's going to make it in. So let's do that real quick. All right, so let me do this and blow this up. Let's look at the locations first. So locations are going to be, that's weird. Let me fix this real quick. Not giving me scroll wheel options. Oh, it's right there. There we go. All right, there we go. So let's look at the first one. Daymar Crash Site. A derelict settlement on Daymar using parts of the Starrunner and 600i, as well as some HABs adapted to the biome to create a point of interest with some type of activity. Puzzle, traversal, hostile AI, missions, etc., as well as rewards for completion. So, what is this? Well, this is just another crash site. It's going to be cool. It's going to be visually interesting and different, but it is effectively a test for them using their tools to create crash sites that are more hero locations, things that are not just generic crash sites that we've seen in the past. If you have been playing Star Citizen, 3.17.2, I believe, had Ghost Hollow. This is just a next evolution of Ghost Hollow with different ships. We're going to see this going forward as they impact the tools. We've already seen an 890 jump being worked on in the past in terms of these sorts of derelict sites, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that soon as well. And of course, this is all being done in the name of getting interesting sites at Pyro as well to work with. So this is an interesting site, but it's going to offer pretty much the same content that we see at Ghost Hollow and Underground Facilities or UGFs. Not too much. It's just a different flavor, a different backdrop to those same missions. So it's cool, but it's testing and backdrops. And that's committed. Now, these are tentative, though they have talked about these real recently. New rivers. So now they're going to have biome-specific object rule sets around bodies of water in Hurston and Microtech, and lakes. So rivers and lakes. So just kind of increasing the diversification. So cool, but again, it's just flavor. It's them using the tool to try to populate them more and improve upon what they've already done. Looks nice, but it's the team kind of working on that. Sand cave archetype, again, cool, but again, it's just another cave. When it comes down to it, it's just going to be a cave like you've experienced before. It'll look pretty, but it'll be the same type of cave stuff you've been used to seeing for forever. And apparently this is new tech they're working on to try to improve the tech long-term about underground facilities and caves in general, so it'd be cool to see that, but this is just the beginnings of that. And the Grey Cat PTV racetrack. This is committed as well. So the Orison Vision Center on Crusader is going to have a Grey Cat PTV racetrack, which you can drive around with 8 other people or 8 other buggies in a race and just kind of doing some crazy stuff. So it's a nice little thing to do at the racetrack while at the convention center while there's nothing going on in the convention center. So nice, but a little bit new gameplay. You like that kind of stuff. Though I would 100% expect there to be nothing but chaos, explosions, people running around in gowns, people doing dancing in the middle of the racetracks to try to get people to hit them so they can give them crime stats. It's going to get messy very quickly in that region. So be warned about that. It'll be cool, but I think especially later on, it'll require to kind of do those sorts of things. So this is all just the locations. A lot of people are like, yeah, Paul, that's great. Locations, I don't care. Let's look at the gameplay. Let's look at the gameplay. I'm going to we'll just tackle this right now. Cargo refactor system. The refactor of the ship cargo will allow both found and purchased cargo to be picked up, moved around, and placed onto the cargo grid of a ship. Now, what does this mean? Because a lot of people have different ideas, but I'll give you the idea of what I've been able to gather from talking with people like Jake and looking through all of the stuff. People should set their expectations properly. We already know, as of the last update, that PES is not going to have, which we'll talk about later as well, but it's not going to have the, I believe it's the matchmaking system. So you won't be able to jump right back into the last server you were necessarily in, which means that you won't necessarily be able to save where you last were. So you won't crash at a 30K and then reload right back into your ship with all your gear. So don't expect something like that to happen. What was told explicitly, I tried to push further and I was not told this information. I was told explicitly that the cargo system refactor is required for salvage. I asked, does that mean it's not going to be in for the commodity system? And I got returned, the cargo system is required for salvage. No committals each way. We do know that 318 is planned or is still planned to have the cargo system refactor, and that they're going to cover it at a later ISC down the line, next quarter, meaning sometime in November. So the question still is it going to be in 318? The answer is yes. It is 100% going to be in 318. But to the degree that it is a question. We have seen no updates from them. Very little mentions of it in most of their documentation. For those of you who don't know, CIG does monthly reports on the regular. Every month they do a monthly report, and they go into extensive detail about lots of different companies or lots of different departments inside the company and what they did that past month. Very little, if any, mention of the cargo refactor system has been in those monthly reports. There hasn't been a lot of discussion on Spectrum about this. It's been pretty much silent except for the HUD concepts they showed back in, I think, June or July, of the system that they're planning on using. I do not know to what extent the cargo system refactor is going to be in the game. It is going to be in game because Salvage is going to be in the game, as we're going to talk about later. So, CIG may pull a technicality. It's in game, it's just not what you expect because CIG has not given us clear expectations for what this cargo refactor system is going to look like in game with 318. All we know is that it's required for Salvage. So, if you're one of those people who's like, cargo refactor is going to change the game, number one, most of what we've seen so far about it is just you can move cargo around in a cargo bay, which you can already do. Already. Boxes can move in cargo bays and add in grids. The reality is, we don't know. We just don't know what the extent this is, and CIG is not telling us anything about it. So neither of those things generally trend towards good expectations, though CIG is going to be talking about it later in ISE, so that could mean good things, but I would set your expectations as low as possible. Cargo system refactor, as far as I'm concerned, is only going to be in the Salvage until otherwise specified, which means don't expect it to be in commodities, which means you're not going to be able to go to traders, you're not going to be able to go out there and buy commodities and have them populate in your stuff. Do not expect that in 318 until CIG explicitly shows it or tells it, just because we don't know. And this is one of the downfalls of CIG not being able to tell us these things, because why? Like, why can't they just tell us that fact? And the answer is because they don't know. If they don't know, and 318 is already going into testing here soon with the release around IAE, which is the beginning of November, it starts to consider, for me, it starts to go, well, why, how can we trust this if it's going to be, you know, there's lots of other things that are going to go into this. We still don't even know it's going to be into the testing phases. So for right now, hold your horses, calm down, don't expect it. Just pretend this doesn't exist. Because for as far as we can tell, it doesn't. Not except for Salvage. With that, let's move on. Alright. Sandbox prison activities. The expansion of prison activities, a gameplay with a new suite of missions and sandbox activities to give inmates more opportunities to earn merits and to aid escapes from prison. Some pretty cool stuff, but it's going to be an expansion of what we currently have with the prison system. New missions, new interesting stuff, but it's not really going to be much beyond that. If you don't spend a lot of time in prison, you probably won't notice it. If you do spend a lot of time in prison, we'll have to see if it's even fun enough or interesting enough to do. We'll see. So, then we've got the Security Point Korea reactivation, which they've expanded Security Point Korea, and we know as of today that they have reduced the penalties for CS1 and CS2 to just fines. So if you get a CS1, so a level 1 or level 2 criminal, you will not be shot at by stations. So you will not have to go to Korea because you accidentally punched your friend and he hit the wrong button. You will not have to go to Korea because you were backing out and you didn't see that invisible turret, or that turret that wasn't in your view screen, and you bumped into it, and now you're suddenly kill on sight. It's no longer going to be a thing. You can go to any terminal and pay off those fines. Once you get to CS3 and higher, then you're going to have to go to Security Post Korea, because that is the only location you can hack away your crime stat. That is right. There is only one place now you'll be able to hack away your crime stat, and it's at Security Post Korea, which is on top of all of this going to get its own little miniature jump town, where you can attack Security Post Korea, disable everything, get out, you can kill all of the AI on there, which there'll be security AI, get a code and access a contraband kind of spawner, which will give you drugs and other aspects of other illegal objects which you can then sell on the market for some profit. And while you're doing this, a counter mission will spawn where you are going to have to deal with other players coming to give you. It's our first kind of in-game mini event with a completely overhauled interior for for Korea. It's a mini Jump Town. It's great. Problem is, it's also going to be the only place you can hack away your crime stats, so chaos will ensue for sure. It's cool. If you enjoy PvP, this is going to be the new PvP hotspot. If you're a big PvP player, this might be a good idea. So, all right, new missions Orison. This is another cool aspect. If you are an FPS player, if you've been looking for new FPS content other than UGFs, these new missions are going to be great. If you've played Siege of Orison, they're going to activate some of these platforms again outside of Siege of Orison for similar missions. You're going to go through the buildings and kill Ninetales operatives, and you're going to kill Ninetales lieutenants or other, like, find objects and bring them back, that sort of thing. So it's just going to be like UGFs, but on the Orison platform. So a little bit more diverse, hopefully more money, but who knows. So more stuff like that's more targeted. And lastly, salvage hull stripping. Now, what does this mean? Salvage hull stripping is not salvage. Not in the complete way. It is salvage. It's just step 0 of salvage. Every ship has hull plating around it. What hull stripping means is that it'll remove the stripping, the hull plating of your ship and turn it into goo. And this goo will then be used that you can sell on the market. This does not mean you can extract components. This does not mean you can kill the entire superstructure. Just the goo. Get the goo. And only 2 ships can do that. The Vulture, which will be released in 3.18, and the Reclaimer. And these things will be processed into boxes, and those boxes will then be able to be sold in the commodity markets for something. Probably similar to scrap. Probably is what they'll be sold as. This is cool, and it's an important aspect of salvage, but it's not everything that people hope for salvage yet. There are future aspects they're already working on called hull munching. We'll see how long that stays on the progress tracker as of now, but it is on the progress tracker as of now. And it allows you for some light hull repair. Not repair, but if you get scarred up and dinged, you can return some of your ship's health on its exterior, so like on its hull plating, by pulling some salvage off of another ship. So, but only with your hand mining tool, your hand salvage tool. But other than that, it's fairly simple. I would not expect this to be extensive, though there are going to be derelict ships which will spawn in asteroid belts in space, similar to asteroids, which you can scan for and then disassemble. There'll be basically empty ship hulls that are broken into pieces. The status that your ship enters when your ship explodes, but they'll stick there longer, which they needed to happen because of PES. PES needed to exist for that to happen. So salvage is a great example of technologies converging. It needed PES and needed the new cargo mechanics. Both of those will be in place for salvage. As I said before, expecting cargo beyond salvage is probably not a good idea. So keep that very much tuned down until we have a 100% confirmation from CIG on that part. All right. All right, so let's go over ships and vehicles. We know there's only 2 so far that are listed, but expect a couple of others. We've got the Drake Vulture, which is the first medium, small size, entry-level salvage ship, and the Drake Corsair. This is the reason why both of these are being added is because CIG is planning on 3.18 releasing around IAE, which is usually around the beginning of November, though they've changed it every now and then, so it could be at the end of November. Likely around Thanksgiving would be my guess, but depending because of how complicated 3.18 is. So we'll have to see on that one. But there are also probably going to be other vehicles. We know there's at least 1 unannounced ground vehicle and 1 announced ship, which will be available likely at IAE, straight to flyable. So these will not be the only ships or vehicles available for that patch. Then we've got the Grey Cat multi-tool salvage attachment, something you need to have to do a hand salvage. We know that's going to be in the game. And lastly, this is the big one, persistent entity streaming. What is PES? Why do we have Pez in Star Citizen? What does this mean? Well, implementation of persistent entity streaming core technology into Star Citizen, making use of the services such as entity graph and replication layer. This will allow every dynamic object in the game to fully persist across all servers, irrelevant of whether it was owned or held by a player. How will this work? Well, the best my stupid brain can grasp on this is that PES specifically is nothing more than persistence. Effectively, take what you have right now in 3.17.2 and have things persist between crashes. So if you were on a station or you were in the middle of a combat on a bunker mission, when you crash, you come back, your stuff is still with you through that. You may still be at the bunker. I don't know 100% if it'll save your position or not. It should, but based off of what CIG has said, don't expect it. You still probably go back to the last station you were at, or last landing zone you were at, but you may not lose reputation. But it's hard to tell. CIG has not been very specific on how this will work in their own explanation, except for effectively what we have in 3.17.2, you will have in Star Citizen, or in Star Citizen 3.18. They're going to be the same things. Do not expect significant increases in whatever persistence will happen. Eventually, this will lead to you persisting in, so if you log out in the middle of space, not in your ship, but like just accidentally crash and you log back in, you will log back into exactly where you left off, because you log back into that direct server and continuing forward. It also leads to the ability to do things like server meshing in the future. And the infamous coffee mug explanation, dropping a coffee mug in the middle of the forest and then moving away and coming back, and that coffee mug comes back. But CIG is playing it very close to the chest and very simple for 3.18's release. It's just going to be 3.17.2. So you won't see any difference. There could be some improvement. If everything works out correctly, the stuff we normally complain about with servers, things like derpy AI and slow loading inventory screens, those sorts of issues should be mitigated with PES. Should be. Doesn't mean it will, but it should be. Because what effectively PES does is takes a lot of the things that the game servers had to store, like the locations of players, the locations of items, like say you left your ship off, or a vital aspect of a mission, so like a box that was required for complete your mission. If you left that in the middle of Daymar, on a desert in Daymar, and you flew away, the game server had to remember where that box was at all times and keep that in its active memory. And everything, or maybe even passive memory, I don't remember, but it's like everything in the game had to be stored on the game server. Now, all of that information is going to be pulled off the game server and put into this back-end service, this persistent entity, the entity graph. So it no longer has to have that files in game, which means that the longer these servers stay up, the less information they're going to have to hold into their brain, which means that, in theory, AI should work better. Everything should respond better, just because the game servers don't have to care about that stuff in the short term. It just has to focus on the entities that are in front of or around the player. So we could see some improvement on that. But the one thing that's not on this list that we know is going to be added is Gen 12. The next renderer that CIG is finished and implementing should be mostly complete, if not entirely complete, by 3.18's release. They haven't put it on the roadmap, or on the release view, but that's something they have confirmed that they're going to add to the game. Not Vulkan yet, but the new renderer. This is the reason why 3.17 had a 60% performance boost for most players when it released, because they added one aspect of Gen 12. Again, don't be celebrating to the hills. like this is not going to give you 400 FPS in Star Citizen, but it should in theory, again, significantly improve your experience with Star Citizen with most rigs, especially high-end rigs. It should reduce some of the problems that have happened as a result. It's not designed to do that. It's just the next renderer so they can add more things and populate more things in the game, but they're not going to populate more things in the game until later. So in theory, it should give you some bonuses, some boosts. So what is 318? What should you think about 318? And should you go into 318, like right, you come back if you're waiting for it? This is going to sound weird, but no. I do not believe it is a good time for new players to come back with 318. If you're a hardcore player, you're going to come back no matter what I say is going to say. But if you're a new player, or if you're a longtime player who's left the game and coming back recently, I would stay away from 318. 318 is set up to be a very, very interesting experience, probably a lot more buggy than you think. There may be some significant performance improvements, but the gameplay will not significantly change. And in general, the experience will be more of the same. So if you're currently playing Star Citizen 317.2 and are like, I don't enjoy this experience, I'll wait for it to get better, 318 is not that patch. On top of that, CIG is committing to releasing 318 before IAE. That is an incredibly short crunch time. And CIG is more than likely going to hit that goal. Whether it's ready or not to go, it's going to go. They're going to make it as best they can, but probably not. On top of that, CIG is likely going to throw a free flight at this later in the year, which will make it even worse. Great for testing, but not good for performance. So I would say this is the first patch in a long time. I will say, if you're a brand new player, stay away. It's just not worth it. I could be wrong. I'm going to do another review after the fact, once the game's been in PTU a little bit longer and I can kind of get my own hands on it and give you a better idea as a player of the game. But I do want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think I'm just being a pessimist? I'm being a hater, whatever? Do you think I'm right? Do you have your own interpretations? Please let me know in the comments below. I do always like to hear your conversations. I don't always respond, but I do read every comment, so please keep it civil, because if you don't, I will take matters in my own hands. I'm not trying to make anyone's dream hurt. I'm not trying to say everything's bad or everything's perfect. I'm just trying to keep things as realistic as possible, considering what CIG has told us or is willing to tell us. So, well, thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoy this. Come join us live on Thursdays. We're gonna have a conversation about this right now, right after the fact. Twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, YouTube.com/TheAstroPubLive. Love to see you here. Like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. I'm not leaving yet. We're not done yet. That was just the recording. And we live in interesting times. Did I hear the rumors about 317.3 test going in lieu of 318? No, I think that's a misunderstanding of what was going on. From what I've seen, the test was they want to do some loot spawn tests, which probably is 318 related, but it's specifically in 317. They're just trying to test things out with what they have now. So. Hey, Velocity, you do you, buddy. We're on the ads again, so it's a little bit better. Is 317.3 possible? No, I don't think so. Yes, I know Inferno. You put gowns in your local inventory and then it won't overspawn it. I've been doing that for a while. Someone told me that it's actually a good idea after the fact. I'm like, oh, okay. I've been doing it by instinct for a while. I'm gonna now figure out how to use my Twitch Prime sub because these are worse. Paul, I'm new to the game. Should I buy? Obviously, you're not new to the game. Stop lying to the people. No, don't buy 5890 jumps. Bang saying versus 315p go. 315p, hands down, it's better. It's just better. It's got a bed. It has a cargo, or like a tractor beam on the front. It has more cargo. It's just better. Are they the same price? If they're the same price, hell yeah, fuck the beta. The 315p is the fucking best small ship in the game. Like, hands down the best small ship in the game. It is the Cutlass of small ships. It gives you the best of all worlds that you can possibly imagine. That tractor beam makes it so much better. And the 12 cargo units, 12 SCU, it's fucking stuff. It's insane. No, the beta, not the Nomad. The Nomad is fine, but the Nomad is not really a one-person ship. It's a much larger ship. It's much more like close to a medium ship. And even then, it doesn't have a tractor beam. Tamso when? Tamso wheel? Tams in the black hole system? Paul, I'm new to the game. Should I buy a flight sim pit? I'm guessing, Abdi, your child has gone to bed. And you're taking it out on me. How you doing, Abdi? Atlas Black is the best starter ship. It's pretty good. I actually think that the 315p is better than the Avenger Titan. You get more cargo space, you get a better bed, and you get a cargo like a tractor beam. The gun wise, it's not as good as the Titan, but it's almost up there. I don't think the Nomad has one. You nailed it. What do you think? Am I being too cynical about 318, y'all? Am I saying that, like, don't expect anything but 317.2 with a little bit of improvements? I always try to, like, reach out on that one because, like, I try not to be a bitter, black-pilled asshole, but I also, like, take one look at 318 and go, this is nothing but trouble. This is not good for the game, but it's good for the game, bad for short term. Paul, I need some more hopium. You feel I'm on point? Yep, it's a bit above the cargo bed of the Nomad. Oh, there's stuff in the cargo beam. Okay. I love my 325A until I upgrade it to a bigger ship. You're spot on, though. I don't want to believe it. It's best to lower expectations. Worst case, you'll be surprised and add more. Yeah. No, I think it'll be buggy because a lot of new stuff is being implemented, which is not a good foot to lead for new or returning folks. You're right. Okay. Honestly, I think you're being nice. No, you're exactly right. When you need to set expectations below release. So 318 is going to bring a lot of bugs. Yeah. This is an alpha. Yeah. Sounds about right. Ads are over. Okay, good. Entirely non-functional right now, but it feeds my copium addiction. The little space pickup. Yeah. Unless they drop something tech-wise at CitizenCon, highly unlikely. I'm expecting 3.0 levels of fucked up. Yeah. I go in expecting bugs. This is a nothing burger. Is a necessary salad with nothing fun or desired by players. I think it'll be a dumpster fire. I'm trying to look at the bright side because I know that CIG is definitely capable of surprising us. They've done it before with things like performance boosts and such. And I do think CIG wants to put their best foot forward. I don't want to sit here and be like, CIG is intentionally giving us a lemon of a patch. But I think there are too many variables in this patch for it to be good. I think it's like setting a broken bone. This is the cast that's being applied to the broken bone. It's going to be itchy and shitty, but you can sign it. But you're just going to have a cast on your leg for the next 3 months. And then the next patch comes out, they'll crack open that cast and it'll feel better. And things will look a little bit better and you've got some new stuff. It'll be good. But that cast is going to suck ass for the next 3 months. Give me to trade. Is the cargo refactor happening 318? Don't pull your punches. I can take it. Yes, but not in the way you think. The cargo refactor is 100% happening. It is confirmed by CIG that it's going to be in 318 for Salvage. They have not yet confirmed that 318 is going to have the cargo refactor for anything else. Is a building patch foundational? Not everything in the game is pretty sparkly or graphically representative. That's true, Tree. It's mostly that we've been building such good momentum with gameplay additions and performance improvements and things like events, which we've seen over and over the last 2 years, that now that we got to the boring picket fence, the boring pouring of concrete patch, I'm afraid that it's going to be like, oh, so CIG hasn't updated anything for 6 months. Glad I couldn't take it. Listen, Jake, Lando, any CIG member can come on this stream right now and tell me I'm fucking wrong, and I will accept that. But none of them have given me a straight answer when I have asked that question, which is concerning. If you cannot give me a straight answer that it will 100% be in 318 in the commodity section, like the way that people think it's going to be, right now, it means that it's not ready. I know that's the fact. And if we don't know that, and 318 is going to be testing here very shortly, it's hard to imagine that being added in a way that won't be a completely buggy, fucked up mess when it actually comes to release. Oh, so many people don't know how dark this is going to get with full physical cargo. Yeah, I know. It smells like weasel words. It smells like technically. It smells like 318 in general. For those of you who don't remember, they completely moved 318 from summer to fall so they could technically still release PES and Salvage and cargo refactor with 318, even though this is really not 318, this is 319. But CIG just, the numbers don't matter, so they just moved it. It is absolute weasel bullshit, is what it was. They could have easily just said 318 is coming out, which was 317.2, and then the next patch after that. But they didn't do that because they knew that people were going to go, Salvage got moved again. And so they did it as a PR stunt. Like, that's all it was. And it's like, really? You're that sensitive about that? And again, fucking tell me I'm wrong. CIG, I can take it. Like, most of us can. If there was a significant reason why 318 had to still be called 318, like there was some technical issues or something like that, I get it. But it's, until you tell me that otherwise, unless there's some sort of official, it's a PR move. It's a blatant PR move. Didn't they use the 317 facility process? Yes, they did, Abdi. But they did the same thing with 316. 316 was 315 dot whatever, but they just called it 316. They've done that multiple times. Did you just say CIG come at me, bro? I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, and I'm not trying to be like accusatory at CIG. I'm just seeing what I see. And if I'm seeing something wrong, then please correct me on that issue. If I'm not seeing something wrong, then that's the case. There's no way 319 is coming out this year. There's no way. Not with 318. We'll see this stuff. This is like a lore piece that Hearthstone Dynamics did, or this is like a lore piece that Hearthstone Dynamics did, or something. What? Bigger office could mean a bigger update, Paul. I mean, in the future, but not early on. They're moving tomorrow. They're moving like next week to the new offices. It's not like it's going to happen overnight. I don't think they realized how bad 317 was until it was too late. I agree. I think that's the case. I think they were legitimately thinking that they were going to get 318 out in like August, but then they got very bad for them. And they didn't realize how much work it was going to be to do the rest of the stuff. They just miscalculated times. Don't you think 372 would make a lackluster 318? Not really. It would have been okay. But I think a lot of people would make fun of it if it was 318. Oh, look at all these things that got cut from 318. They moved all this stuff because they couldn't handle it. When the reality was all of that stuff was in 318 as a legacy 318 back at the beginning of the year, which was going to get moved anyways, which is the reason why they stopped doing these fucking monthly updates, these release views early on to just the most recent patches, because they couldn't deal with the PR fallout of having to move things from release view from one patch to another because everyone would lose their minds. And the same thing happens with the roadmap roundup. In fact, I saw an interesting comment on Star Citizen subreddit where someone said these roadmap roundups used to be super exciting. I either get super angry or super hyped about it. Now it's just boring. It's like, good. That's the point. They don't want to have super exciting or angry stuff in those patches, those updates. They just want to tell you what's going on. That's all it is. It's not a marketing tool. It's literally just communication. And that was the point. That was the whole thing. It's to kill the reactions for that. So you stick to just what they're working on, and you can focus on the near future of what's going on. I just got to laugh about the SPK backpedal kind of deal on ISC. I don't think it was an backpedal. I think they in fact, I applaud them for talking about this, because this is something that everyone, at least not everyone, the people in my circles were complaining about, how they weren't thinking about these specific factors. We all made very big, detailed, I did two entire videos. I did an entire captain's table on this, and I also was on the Info Runners where we did an entire video on that, explaining this is going to end up poorly. Do you not know your own fucking demographic, CIG? And they looked into it. They could figure out how they could fix it, because they actually, for those of you who don't know, they talked about that change weeks ago. Actually, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, almost a month ago. They said, yep, we're going to change this so that CS1 and CS2 doesn't get you killed. That was something they talked about a month ago. But people don't read Spectrum or read the monthly reports. They don't know that. But they do watch the ISCs. Was that a backpedal? Yeah, because it used to basically say you only get one hack away your crime stat. CS1 and CS2, you're still shoot on sight. So if you back up and you accidentally hit a gun turret, or you glitch into a gun turret, now you got to fly to Korea and you're going to get sniped by bounty hunters and PvPers, whether you like it or not. Question: is there any drawings of Fiona Mezer or any description of her? I'm trying to put together a lore drop of my from my org. There's nothing specific. The only Mezer we have a picture of is Ivar Mezer. So you could probably take a look at Ivar Mezer and kind of extrapolate from that. But that's probably going to change as well. I also think PS is a much worse state than they're letting on to. I wouldn't go into that much of a black pill inferno. The last update that Jake released was something to the effect of it was ready to go today, but they found some low level issues that they wanted to fix so they can make sure it was working properly. And they're turning it around, the bug fixing pretty fast with it. So they seem to be on top of it right now. It's just a matter of like time. I don't really know it was a backpedal, not even out of the possibility they were already planning on doing it, and they just didn't mention it in the ISC. They've done that before. Yeah, could be. But I mean, coronal, it's exactly what we suggested. It's like, that's the thing. It's like it was literally the things we suggested. Make CS1 and CS2 fines. Word for word what we said. And it wasn't just me and Execute and Al and Darj and I forget who else was on that. And Dog Demon. It wasn't just us five who said that. Other people said the exact same thing on Spectrum, on Reddit, on Facebook, on Twitter. People had the exact same idea. CS1 and CS2 are far too harsh to do this. You're just going to send noobs into the wood chipper. And that's what we constantly said. You are going to kill new players with this. You are going to scare new players away. You are going to cause the griefing to increase. Please don't do this. And it's literally what they did to change it. CS2 is my favorite version of the Adobe apps. Joking, CS5 is my favorite. That was my favorite CSGO. Or CS6 was my favorite version of Counter-Strike. Yeah, but also, like, that's the most obvious and simple solution. But I'd buy a bit more of, it was like some complicated system they copied. I just don't think they thought about it. I don't think that was they were not in that stage of thinking about it. They're thinking about, how can we make this work? What will it look cool? And they were worried. They were focusing on the missions and Korea. They were not focusing on the ripple effects it would cause to every other player in the game, because they weren't thinking about it. It's not your job as a designer. Your job as a designer is to focus on the thing you're supposed to design and make it good. A bridge, someone who's building a bridge doesn't give a shit about the toll road 2 miles down the road. They're building the fucking bridge. Let the civil engineer or those folks whose job is to deal with traffic patterns to figure out if that fucking makes sense. But there is no person like that in CIG right now. They just don't exist because it's just not where they're at. So the players have to do that. The players have to throw up the red flags and be like, yo, why the fuck are we putting a toll booth this close to this bridge? Probably a bad idea. Big Bivet, how's the school year doing? It's going, I was going to say better than last year, but probably not as good as last year, but not as bad as last year. Better and better. It's going average. It's a whelming school year. You get my point, though, Death Trooper. An engineer focuses on the bridge, not on the area around the bridge. I think people would be surprised to learn how little about the broad strokes of the game that most devs know versus the kind of encyclopedic knowledge a lot of players have about player-facing stuff. I mean, I think they would be surprised, but I don't think it's not surprising to people who don't have to deal with it, because the complex nature of building something like PES is beyond me. It requires this very specific type of person who's focused on a very specific goal. Building missions and making them fun and designing like corridors and different stages, that requires a very specific type of skill, a very specific amount of time and energy and focus. Those people, it's like, don't ask someone who is a firefighter to suddenly become a cop overnight. Could they do it? Sure. They probably have some basic information about the law just by being in similar kind of fields, and since you're dealing with the public and dealing with a lot of legal issues. But it probably wouldn't do well. They're fucking firefighters. They just deal with firefighting and medical stuff. That's their job. Don't ask them to do something they're not supposed to do. So if their job is go to school or go to work, make this thing and make it fun, then that's their job. The job is not dealing with the entire game. I was on the HQ committee for my company and called them out once for ignoring us. Shortly after they dismantled the committee. And teachers have it so to be so resistant. Thank you for your work, Paul. Thank you. I don't sleep a lot. Give me a second to look up the team names. They have teams focused on balance. They do, but that's for the entire game. That's for the entire game, not just one aspect. Yeah, no, CS1 was never supposed to be kill on site. You could always pay off your fines, but if you flew to any station, you'd be shot at. If with even a level 1 crime stat. We need a fire marshal. We need civil engineers, is what we need. We need someone who can look at the patterns and see the forest for the trees. You know, not just see the trees, but see the forest and how the trees interact with the forest and all the woodland creatures and such like that. We need those sorts of people. CIG hasn't hired those people. CIG probably has no idea how to hire those people or integrate them into their teams because that's not their focus. Their focus is just building the fucking basics. That's it. They haven't even built their basic tools to make the game a game, really, yet. If I recall correctly, the vehicle experience team is one of the teams that has unbalanced duty. Yes, but it's just vehicles. No one in CIG is looking at how vehicles interact with FPS players, with how all those interact with minables and salvageables and criminality. No one has an idea how that works except for players who fuck around with that shit. So. Can you tell the difference between friend and foe easier in bunkers yet? Yeah, they fixed that. They now if you take the mission for bunker missions, all allies have a little icon over their head. Actually, it happens for all missions. If you have a mission that has multiple people in it, but you don't have their icon, they'll always have a little chevron above their head letting you know that they're friendly. I've always thought it was dumb that you can technically pay off CS1 at any stations, but you can't get into the stations. There's only one place you could do it at, which was Pyro, Grimhex. But not a lot of people knew that. It's not telegraphed anywhere, so it doesn't make a lot of sense. But then again, the CS system makes no goddamn sense. I hate the CS system. It is the only thing I hate worse than Redeemer. And I hate it so much. It is the worst part about this game. Hands down, the worst part about this game in terms of its design. And that's saying a lot. They don't have a London office. They have a Manchester office, and that Manchester office is opening next week. It made sense when it was first made as a temporary stopgap for dealing with the situation they had, not with reputation existing. Seeing as you're not on a roll tonight, can I get your hot take on something? Is the Squadron 14 team moving to the PU after the release or moving straight into Squadron 43? All right, nonstop. If you want me to go on that one, I think people are right to believe that Squadron 42 team is going to move right onto the PU, not into Squadron 43 or whatever the next edition of Squadron 42 is. Because the reason why they need the people on Squadron 42 team now is to build out the basics first in Squadron and then port them over to Star Citizen. And this is one of those things that it's very important to note. Squadron 42 and Star Citizen are the same game. I don't mean they're on the same engine. I don't mean they're like similar. They're the same fucking game. Literally. If you ask anybody who has seen the files of Star Citizen, you can find Squadron 42 files in Star Citizen files sometimes when they release a patch, or PTU patches especially. You find them bundled in together because they're the same game. Literally down to their code, they are the same game. The same objects in Star Citizen will spawn in Squadron 42 and vice versa. So when CIG says we're putting all these people to Squadron 42 and people lose their fucking minds because they think none of this stuff is going to come into Star Citizen until Squadron 42 releases, no, that's not how that works. It's just being built in Squadron first and ported to the PU. That's it. And that's what's important, is the building it in Squadron first means that the teams who are working on Squadron can then take that base tool or that base experience and then improve upon it without having to port it from Star Citizen, and then make it work with the systems they have in Squadron 42. So will Squadron 42 have medical gowns? Probably. Also, fun fact, when you open Star Citizen, it opens the Squadron 42 vehicles and you can see them in game log files. Yeah. It's the same thing. So the reason why that's the case is because they need to build that out first. Squadron 42 is a priority because it's closer to being done than Star Citizen is. And when that releases, then a lot of that team will move over to Star Citizen, and a small group of the team, the content team that works on Squadron, will start working on expansions or this next iteration of the single-player experience. They do not need to have a large team that's building out gameplay loops because they don't need to. Squadron 43, it won't be called Squadron 43, but Squadron 42 Part 2 is going to be the same game as Squadron 42 Part 1, fundamentally. Except they'll have some additions and changes to gameplay, which will first be developed in Star Citizen. So going forward after Squadron 42's release, Star Citizen is going to be the development testbed for new aspects of Squadron 42 in the next editions of Squadron 42. That's it. That way they can use the same engine to build multiple games. Like the 3 parts of Squadron 42, because it is a 3-part story, will be built together into one long story using the same engine. And the same assets, and the same voiceover files, and everything. What matters right now is getting the basis done, the basic parts of the game to make it fun done. So that's why I often say when you want to know what Squadron 42 is right now, look at Star Citizen, because that's exactly what Squadron 42 is. Maybe it's slightly improved because Squadron 42 is about 6 months to a year ahead of Star Citizen. But what we're seeing in game right now is what Squadron 42 was a year ago. That's it. So if you're like, oh, is Squadron 42 done? Is Star Citizen fun, playable experience for you? Is in combat? No? Then no, it's not done yet. Can I play Crisis on an MFD? Yes. No. I don't know. Hey, P-Gill. Hey, Toy, thanks for the raid. Sorry, I've been getting on a rant. Hot take, Squadron 42 being the same game engine worries me. Is there some features that make sense in an MMO that are just clunky in a single-player game? Yeah, it's going to happen. Players can be bounty hunters, not cops. Yeah. How you doing there, Toy? Apparently, you and Execute are going to be on the 24-hour live stream for Captain's Table. What time did you guys want? Because then Execute said, hey, we're going to do this. I didn't know what time on the schedule. Because I don't have too many slots open. I do have like early in the morning open, Toy, if you're willing to do that. The two at the end were like 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. Eastern. On Monday. Just to make sure that's what you wanted. Paul, what's my take on players playing another player bail, pay another player's bail? Good idea if they can make it work. The interthought system is getting completely reworked. Yeah. It's why the bulk of which we're getting in Star Citizen combat oriented right now. Yeah. And Salvage. Salvage was originally, what we're seeing with Salvage right now was originally prototyped in Squadron and then ported over to Star Citizen. Same with the spacescaping. Spacescaping was originally Squadron and then got like the volumetric clouds and the asteroids. All that was Squadron. When is the new star map coming? It's being built in Squadron, and the last we heard, the new star map was on pace to be done around the end of the year, into next year, early next year. in Squadron, which means 6 months after that in Star Citizen. So probably not until summer of next year at the earliest. So sometime between 3.19 and 4.0 would be my guess. Chad, I must leave. I need to doom scroll Twitter in bed for 3 hours and go to bed. Go to bed. Have a good night there, Abdi. Thanks for hanging out. What you see as inner thought now will be unrecognizable as the old inventory is to the new inventory. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I'll be on the captain's table at 3 a.m. No one will do, but I'll do it. No work on a Monday, gang. Okay, if you want to come in there, Velocity, you can talk. Do you think they will keep selling ships for real money when the game's finished? Yes, they make too much money off of it. They won't stop that. I'm really excited to see Mark Hamill in Squadron 42. Squadron 42 is all right. So real talk and admission, I know the entire story of Squadron 42. I know it all. I've heard the audio files. I've read all the mission descriptions. Not because I wanted to, but because I'm a dumbass who did wrong things, who looked for the wrong things and edited in the wrong place. So I know all of it. Based off of what I've heard and what I've read, I want to play it. I'll put it that way. It's one of those games where I know all the twists and the turns and I know the character developments, but I still am interested in playing it. Yeah, yes, I'm a hacker. No. My sub count? I'm currently sitting at 392 subs, 414 sub points. So. Okay, Toy. It'll probably be the last one because X is good at that one, and that'll be a pretty good time for him too. So I'll try to make it early for you. You were crying. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Did you have good time there, Toy? Did your sub count go up? I'm going to enjoy Star Citizen, my new CPU. Enjoy it, Fario. Thank you for coming and hanging out. Enjoy it. I'm sorry, Anakin, for all of it. Okay, if you know everything about Squadron 42, do I win? Define win. Do you survive? Yes. Yes, you do. Yeah, 1070 is a rough aspect. Well, that sucks, Toy. That sucks. Go sub to Toy. Go give Toy some subs. He's a good content creator. Worth your time, worth your effort, worth your subscription for sure. You're gonna get Space Tomato to buy you lunch? I'm sure Space Tomato will buy you lunch. Oh, buy you a bunch. Yes. Sorry to hear that, Toy. Glad you're back though. Hot take, they won't make more than one new capital ship concept. They take too much dev time. Yeah, probably. I don't think they need more than one. I think the last one they need is a gunfighter anvil capital ship of some kind. I think that's the last one they'll really need. Everything else they have. There's really no reason to go beyond those larger ships. Oh no, Sketch. She's talking about Squadron. Not Star Citizen. Impossible to win. There is no win parameters in MMO mode. There is in Squadron 42, which is survive. Are they still planning on having a player character from Squadron be our character in the PU? Last I checked, yes, but that's been so long ago. I know that feeling, Toy. I have come back from a break and seen my sub count at like way less than I wanted it to be. And I was like, God damn it. So I feel you. I feel you. Yeah, I know what you meant. But the question was about Squadron. Also, in theory, making assets for both could slow down dev on Squadron 42, like interior of ships. In all honesty, you can limit what players can interact with way more in a single-player game. There's no real point, though, to do that, because by developing Squadron, like, for instance, with Chris Roberts' game, this is a Chris Roberts game, you're likely going to be able to explore every aspect of a ship that you need to. And if CIG doesn't want you to go to that part of the ship, they'll just make it destroyed. That doesn't mean they won't work on that area to get it up to somewhat snuff. It's just getting up to the right stages. I doubt CIG is going through and adding every little detail of the Javelin if they don't have every use of all the parts of the Javelin yet. They don't need to, and they probably won't. But they just still do not want you to explore the Javelin until they get it done for Squadron. The issue with Star Citizen is not ships. It's not pretty looking at things. The issue with Star Citizen is fundamental gameplay aspects and like rendering is the problem. Gen 12 renderer, for instance, is required for Squadron. I can almost guarantee you Vulkan API is required for Squadron to work. So the famous last Halo reach then. To a degree, I'm not going to go into details because I don't want to spoil anybody, but the story of Squadron 42 is you playing as a character who is a lieutenant in the Navy, and UAE Navy. And your job is to be a lieutenant in the Navy and go on missions, meet your wingmen, meet your other people on the ship, the UES Stanton, and deal with problems that arise. That's your job. That's the game. It is, you're not Shepard going around the universe, saving the universe. You're not a spec ops soldier dealing with the crazy international espionage. You're not the chosen ones destined to save the universe. You're just a soldier, an officer in a spaceship flying around shooting what you were told to shoot. Pretty basic Wing Commander style gameplay. It's not that much that complicated. The interesting parts of that is the choices you make, because every choice you make and every way you approach a mission will change the next mission you accomplish, because it's branching paths that will happen in the game. So there could be a playthrough where one playthrough you get everyone killed, and another playthrough you could save everybody. But there'll be consequences along the way for making those decisions. Wing Commander. That's just what they did in Wing Commander. But now it's more in depth. You have a lot more social options. You can walk around the ship more, talk with more of the characters. You get to know every member of the Stanton as an actual like character, and not just random NPC number 4572334. Like, they're gonna be people you'll talk to. So every decision you make is going to be a little bit more impactful. Well, because Inferno, they don't need to make that in Squadron, so they won't. They'll just wait for it to go to PU, and then if they need to do more detail in the PU, they'll wait for that's done in the first place. So will Squadron 42 character be tied to the PU character? We don't know yet. That was the original plan. Does getting lost all the time and having a jacked up uniform apart from being an LT as well? I don't get a crown, but yes. I can imagine that if you don't wear your uniform properly, there'll probably be some dialogue options. Fishy, what he's saying is that if you're building it for Squadron 42 and Star Citizen at the same time, you're going to have to put it up to Star Citizen's quality of detail that doesn't necessarily need to be in Squadron 42. What I'm saying is that they won't. They just won't. They just won't release or even work on the aspects that are needed for the PU until after Squadron comes out. It doesn't slow anything down. If anything, it slows Squadron 42 or Star Citizen development down more than Squadron 42. But that's just the way it is. Are we looking to have scheduled AI pilot Starliner flights between planets, or will that be something that player-to-player exclusively? Is CIG anything on this intent? Yes, they eventually do want to have sector. Have you heard of something called Quanta? Because Quanta will eventually, and the probability volume. Quanta and probability volume will eventually play into factor of where you can get fuel. But at least initially, until that is fully fleshed out, it will exclusively be players. Eventually, AI will do everything that players do and more, but until they can get the AI working to a high level, they're not going to bother. Sketch, you and Inferno need to chill out, buddy. You know, for being screw-ups is a common thing when you first leave the academy. I don't think you're I don't know how much of a background you get to choose. I know the story, like I said. And you're a lieutenant. But let's just say the Stanton's not your first post. There will be a first post, and it's not the Stanton. And you want to go to the flight academy, but you're not going to the flight academy. So you got your butter bars, but you're not doing what you want to. And the story is you getting what you want. All I'm saying is, if I interpreted what I read and saw correctly and heard correctly, the first mission or the first arc of Squadron 42 is going to be a punch to your face. It's CIG saying, "Welcome to the game, bitch!" Repeatedly until you get the point of what you're about to play. I'm not going to tell you what that is, but you know. Well, that's right at the right moment. Anything in the next dynamic event they're going to add to the game? Just going to add the mission rescue transport mission sprint? They just finished. Oh, I don't know. Maybe. I have no idea. I love it when CIG punches me in the face. Always a pleasure. And I mean in terms of storytelling. They set the mood very quickly. You go from welcome to the universe, welcome to the game, this is how things work, to you stepped into the wrong neighborhood, motherfucker. Just put it that way. First version is, can the LT read the star chart correctly? Yes. The game already punches you in the face repeatedly. Oh yes, I'm Halo combat involved. I'm not going to say it's Halo combat involved, and I don't want to go into too much because it's just already spoiler details. All I'm saying is you are not prepared for what the opening is. The opening is some Chris Roberts bullshit in a good way. So Squadron 42 will start like Dark Souls, punching you in the face, tying you up, and throwing you down a hole to fight your way out of hell. Yeah, pretty much. You see that cyberpunk anime that punches you in the gut with a story? Yeah, kind of stuff. It's 26 fucking missions, y'all. Are between 21 and 26 missions. 26 hour-long missions, well, average is an hour. Plus, every mission, I think every mission has at least one side mission. It's a long fucking story. And it's only one of 3. It's fucking huge. For a game, what Star Citizen is trying, or what Squadron 42 is trying to be in terms of its narrative, it's the bombacity of a Call of Duty in terms of like its epicness and trying to reach that cinematic scope, but like 5 times its length. 27, thank you. 27. It's fucking insane. So when you were looking at like saying, oh, what is Squadron 42 taking so long? It's fucking huge. That's why it's taking so long. The 2 more sequels too, yeah. It used to be like you, like Adventure Like You. Then I took a Chris Roberts to the knee. Yeah. Question: does CIG plan to let NPCs have access to your rep, history, and Squadron 42 progress to add player NPC interaction? Yes. Yes. Simple. Yes. All of it. Do I think Star Citizen and Squadron 42 will go mainstream similar to the way Call of Duty franchise? No, but I do think Squadron 42 has a chance of going more mainstream than people realize. Because it's a single-player encapsulated story which has multiple ways. This isn't too much of a spoiler. I always say it because it's gameplay related, not necessarily story related. But every mission can be approached different ways. Effectively, say, this isn't an example from actual game, but like there is a bunch of hostages that are inside a building, and it's you and your wingmate are the only ones able to get there in time to free them. And you have to, basically, it's your shot, free the hostages. That's the mission. It's not go to this area to free the hostages. It's just free the hostages. And you can do it stealthily, you can go in guns blazing, there'll be different approaches to each mission. So in reality, when they did like the Asiato station, like that itself is a single mission. The whole damn station is a single mission. Like an hour long, ways you can approach, you can go stealthily through. That's why when they did the briefing room, they spent so fucking long on that station, because it's a fucking level. It's like an entire segment of the story, in the sense of you can sneak around, you can go through guns blazing, you can do both. There's different options, things. That's how it works. Yeah. I mean, it's even written into the lore of the games. The whole concept of Squadron 42 is that Squadron 42, the way that they function is they're all hotshot pilots, and they are told to achieve an objective and are not told how to, they're just told to do it. And that's kind of the whole basis of the game in reality, so. And so the reason why I think that's a good idea for mainstream is because it allows you to approach the game in different ways. You can approach it, I'm going to do all stealth runs, minimal kill runs, whatever. There'll be different ways to play and speed run the game in different unique options. So each story path is going to be completely unique depending on your decisions you make at certain key points. And the experience of playing the game will be different depending on how you want to. That's a brilliant way of making a game. The problem is it's a complex method because you have to build every level to accommodate all of the different options in a meaningful way. And that can fucking take time, which is the reason why Squadron is taking so fucking long. No, Squadron 42 is the verse. It's not a video game in the verse. It is the verse. It's the history of the verse. But it takes place earlier in the lore. I think it's 2944 is when it starts. Allows for great replayability. Exactly. Which is why I think a game like that would definitely be able to reach a mainstream audience, especially with its cast, and if it's done right, if the gameplay is tight and feels right, and it looks good, it'll do well. Kind of like how Dishonored, you had a pacifist route with your maximum carnage options, kind of like that. But there's not going to be like a gauge of how many people you killed and all that sort of thing. It's just going to be your choice. And those choices will have an impact on the overall progression, because there is branching paths for every mission. Depending on how you approach it or how you complete a mission will determine what's the next mission you're going to be able to get, or what happens in the next mission you do. Other video games lore? Yeah, all Arena Commander, Star Marine, Theaters of War. These are all video games in the verse. Hyper Vanguard Force is another one. I do wonder what Squadron 42 development would be like if they had been able to make the UE4 without building a PU beside it. It would be, well, honestly, if they were to make Squadron 42 alone, we would have seen a very different game. Because Squadron 42 was built before the idea of having landable planets. And they had to add landable planets after that tech was developed for Star Citizen. Which just means that we now have much more access. The game's gonna be a lot bigger and a lot more inclusive, and there's a lot more stuff added to Squadron because of that. Enough writers are very familiar with the lore of video games. Yes, they are. Like, you cannot unravel the two games. Star Citizen and Squadron 42 have always been raveled together. It's just what happens to one's going to happen to another. Star Citizen's just in a weird place where Star Citizen is a game that a lot of people are playing right now, and Squadron 42 is a game people will play in the future. I think the reality is there's going to be a very interesting development between Star Citizen players and Squadron 42 players. I think there'll be a very healthy group of Squadron 42 players who will want to have nothing to fucking do with Star Citizen. They don't care. They don't give a shit. They don't want to play an MMO. They just want to play a cool game where they get to be best friends with Henry Cavill and Mark Hamill. I get it. Like, I get that. There'll be a modding community that'll spring up around it. There'll be all sorts of things. And then there'll be people who play Star Citizen who don't give a fuck about a single player game. Period. Squadron 42 hits hard, and Star Citizen become eventually ready player one. That means you, Mr. Paul, are the right and might, I say, lucrative side of history. I don't know. We'll see. Do I think we'll see a shift in player base after Squadron 42? Do you think the RP will get better as people see more lore in the verse unfold? Yeah, that'll definitely happen. I don't do lore stuff just because I think lore is cool. I think it's cool, but I also realized that no one was doing the lore stuff, and I knew that the more that this game develops, the more people will get into the lore because it's extensive. Yeah, Star Citizen players will need to complete Squadron 42 for that goodies, but it doesn't mean they'll be extensively. There are people who still legitimately play Skyrim or Oblivion or Fallout 3. Fallout New Vegas is still being played routinely by people and make content on it repeatedly for different runs that they do. Like Witcher 3, all of those games have games, and it's been so long since those games came out. That's the difference between, you know, a single player and a multiplayer. What's new Roboglass app does Star Citizen need that's not talked about? It needs a homepage. My phone has a landing page that I can customize. I can put whatever I want on the homepage of my phone. So the apps that I'm going to use the most, I can put there. I don't have that in Roboglass. I need that. I also need like weather or temperature or pressure, some sort of automatic like the widgets that you see on phones to be added there. Random question, have you heard anything about the Crucible? It was added to the progress tracker and then removed from the progress tracker, so it's somewhere going to release in the next 2 years. I'd love to see in-game radio. I really would. Wait, what's the Crucible? Crucible is the large repair ship. It's a ship that has its own like hangar that you can repair fighters with. You can transport and repair fighters with. Following question with how many copies of Squadron 42 has already been sold. How is that going to affect the sales of Squadron 42 when it comes out? I've heard this argument before that everyone who has bought Squadron 42, who will buy Squadron 42 has bought Squadron 42. But I can guarantee you there are people who are watching this right now throughout this entire discussion who have no fucking idea what Squadron 42 is, or just learned today that Squadron 42 is part of Star Citizen and uses the same engine and is part of the same Star Citizen like lore, the universe. Very few people know about Squadron. I do not think it's going to cause a negative effect on the future sales because there are people, majority of people who will buy Squadron have not purchased it yet. I'd love to see Mobile games for sure, yeah. The fact that people don't know Squadron 42 is part of Star Citizen is both blessing and a curse, yeah. I mean, every single time I mention Squadron 42, there's someone in the comments or someone in the chat who goes, yeah, I had no fucking idea what that was, what you were talking about until just now. What's Squadron 42? Like, it happens all the time. And with like 127 people on Twitch, 73 people right now on YouTube watching, a handful of those people, and I'm tiny compared to the majority of the gaming community, because remember, when Squadron 42 comes out, it's not just going to come out when CIG releases it. Eventually, and this is the part that a lot of people get upset about, it will make its way to consoles. Squadron 42 is perfect for consoles. Absolutely perfect for consoles. It's a single-player game. It uses an engine that works well with consoles. We can work on controllers. Most consoles these days can plug in like other peripherals if you want to. And Star Citizen can be played on a controller. It's complicated, but you can play it on a controller. And CIG constantly tests it on controllers and make sure it works. Yeah, and the new consoles are perfect for Squadron 42. It's going to happen. Every single Wing Commander game was eventually published to a console. Every single one had a console release. So the likelihood of Star Citizen or Squadron 42 getting released to a console is very high. How will it handle all the key bindings? They already do that. BGD. It's already in. You can already play Star Citizen with a controller. It's not well mapped, but you can do it. He said it would go to PCs first. And he even talked about this. He said the same thing that a lot of PC gamers, especially in like early, like 10 years ago, were saying, which is games right now, or games even today, are being developed for consoles first and PCs second, and been ported to PCs. The opposite should be true, which is games should be developed on PCs, which are more powerful than consoles, and then ported to consoles rather than the vice versa. So that you're developing as best as you can for the market that exists with PC games, and then giving it to the consoles. That's always been his point. It should be a PC game first, and then a console game. That's fine. As long as it's not dumbing down the PC version to put it onto consoles, that works. And you can always do that in the future. CIG could easily hire a team to port the game over and cut it down to make it a little bit simpler for people on consoles. That works too. Yeah, operator modes, the inventory ring, the ring system that they've developed, that is entirely for consoles. like they've been thinking about this since the beginning, about how can they make this easier to port to consoles. Control it perfectly. Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, like Elite Dangerous. The difference is that Elite Dangerous is an online game. Squadron 42 is a single-player experience. They could release it on a disc and sell it and sell plenty of copies, or sell it digitally and sell plenty of copies for people on consoles. I want a USB stick. Oh no, I get you. I get your sketch. I know what you're talking about. People will lose their mind about it, but it's money. And if Squadron 42 is already developed, the hiring a small team, an outside team, to port it to PlayStation or Xbox, not a bad idea. Because you know Microsoft or Sony would lose their fucking mind about getting a game with Mark Hamill, Gillian Anderson, John Rhys Davies, and Henry fucking Cavill. Not to mention Mark Strong. Like, just list off every name in the goddamn universe that's in that game. These are big names that people will recognize from Hollywood and television that they like. That's what it is. I don't think you answered it last time, but do you think we're going to need a decent physics movement for Squadron 42? I think I did answer that. I said I don't know. I'd love to see them improve it, but I don't think we're going to see it until they get a lot of the other performance stuff done, especially things like Vulkan API. I know people will lose their mind, because every time I mention it, someone always comes up saying that's never going to happen, or I hate the idea. And it's like, do you like Star Citizen? Because them paying like a couple million to a small team to port it to consoles and sell more than enough copies to make up that cost, plus make extra more money for Star Citizen, is what you're going to want to do anyways if you want to play Star Citizen long term. It's free money. It's like the idea of releasing Squadron 42 to Steam. That'll eventually happen. It won't happen initial release. It may not even happen around the console release. It'll probably maybe happen even later. But eventually it's going to happen. That's money on the table. They're not going to leave it on the table. Yes, they won't get 100% of the profits. They still have to pay 60% to Valve. But if they've already done a successful release and a successful console release, they have a lot of negotiation power to say, you want this because you're going to sell a fuck ton of these copies. So we want a higher pitch. Yeah, Keanu Reeves is a great example. Like Keanu Reeves is why people like there's a ton of people who bought Cyberpunk because of Keanu. I think it's more like a 60%, but yeah, it could be a 30%. But even with that cut, you're still going to see a significant amount of money coming in. Because you're reaching an audience which will have never heard of Squadron. So I don't think Star Citizen would be capable to be put on consoles, because consoles have very specific rules about online engagement and how you deal with online stuff. And I don't think CIG, because like the consoles, it takes longer to patch on consoles than it does on PCs. So if you think it takes a long time for CIG to patch now, instead of seeing 4 patches a year, you'd probably see 1 or 2. And it'd be impossible to keep those 2 versions going at the same time. So they'd have to be 2 completely separate universes that CIG would have to pay 2 for. I don't think it makes financial sense to release Star Citizen onto the consoles, unless the companies themselves that are, for like Xbox or Sony, Microsoft or Sony will pay for the upkeep of those servers. Do I think the infamy of Star Citizen as a project will help it sell? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Are you kidding me? Like, there are Kotaku writers right now who have the Star Citizen is the biggest comeback in gaming history article that they've already pre-written and are waiting to insert clauses to in 3 or 4 years. Because the only thing people love more than drama and controversy is a success story. It's like a comeback story. There's no such thing as bad press as long as they spell your name right. That does ever be a thing but PC? I disagree, Demas. Every single Wing Commander was released on consoles. Every single Wing Commander was. Squadron 42 is going to eventually release on consoles. Money on the table, we'll see it. Yes, we'll definitely see a documentary covering the development of Star Citizen eventually. It's not already been right. Squadron 42 will be translated into French. It already has been started to, as far as I know. Yeah, and Epic will pay CIG to put it on the Epic launcher for sure. True, but I do think that it will change in the next decade as cross-platform games become increase. It'll really depend on the bureaucracy of the back end. That's really what it is. Everyone loves Underdog as long as they come back. Yep. Cyberpunk it took 20 years and it still ain't done. No Man's Sky took longer. No, it didn't. No Man's Sky didn't take as long, but it still took a long time to get to a stage where it is now. Hey Al, yeah, Squadron 42 for consoles, not Star Citizen due to the size though. Yeah, I think the other issue is probably size, because the average console probably doesn't have enough memory space to install Star Citizen. Because I wouldn't be surprised if Star Citizen ends up being a good over 100 gigs large. Just a requirement. Squadron 42 Black, come in a rusty case with a line of cheap blow included. Are we currently at 121 gigabytes? No, not that I saw. I think it might be if you have all of the other things. I still think it's like 70 or 80 gigabytes. Algrid, we demanded more cat girls. Paul, I don't know what to tell you this, but the Xbox ships with 2 terabytes of hard drives. Yeah, but that's still, can you imagine how much space that Squadron 42 or Star Citizen would take up on top of all of the other games? United Workers Union. Ooh. would be able to say Squadron 42 in French? Squadron 42. No, I can't say it right. I know it's 42. 42. Off topic, but they should add the feature where you drink on the ground and then go fly, get more and more intoxicated as you fly. Like you did, it's in the game. If you drink and you try to fly, the game will literally fight you while you're trying to fly if you're intoxicated. On God, that's in the game right now. 42. There you go. Thank you, BDG. Wait a minute. When's the next complete Star Citizen lore drop? Before Squadron or before CitizenCon. And it's going to release to Patreons before CitizenCon, and it'll release to everybody else sometime mid-November or mid-October. Yeah, the game hits you harder. Yeah. Hey, Steve. Steve French. I'm getting to the stage where my brain no work. Why would you black out if you go too high up? Ah, there you go, Al. Thank you. You'd really have to do the and to, though. $42. Maybe just you. Yeah. That's the one thing I never understood about Spanish, about counting. Because sometimes you have to say E and sometimes you don't. Tired. I've not gone to bed yet. Okay, Genji. All right, so I am saying it properly. 42. I belong to the League of Relic Enthusiasts, the org that I run currently. I'm also part of Test, but the League of Relic Enthusiasts. It's a lore organization that is dedicated to finding relics and putting them in a museum. Yeah, you wouldn't become hypoxic in Star Citizen because you're in a pressurized ship. you wouldn't, it wouldn't work like that, I don't think. What's the charity? We haven't fully decided on it. I asked Algrid about it. The Smith House, I believe it was called, is what I found. But Algrid suggested something else that we give it to. But the Smith House is a poverty charity that works with education. It works with think of it as kind of like the Salvation Army, but for Australia. It's like the Salvation Army, and in the United States we have it as a the like Goodwill. It's very similar to that. Grave Robbers Guild. Smith family, yeah. So I'm eventually, if this works out well, I'm going to get a picture done of Jail. Is Jail's in-game character, and do another portrait, so not in the same style, well, maybe the same style, so that y'all can do it, and we'll give that charity to whatever jail, a charity the jail wants, and then we'll do a portrait of myself in game, and do a charity for like the Trevor Project or something like that. All right, I'll get you Q-Man. There's so many people I gotta let in. I haven't done that yet. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to say thank you for watching us. I am going to be streaming tomorrow. We're going to be doing some... probably some smuggling. Yeah, probably some smuggling again. Or some Zero to Hero. And then Saturday, I will not be streaming because there is no captain's table, nothing like that. I'm saving everything. I'm saving myself for CitizenCon. I'm not going to do anything until CitizenCon. Then Sunday, we're going to do our bar crawl. We're going to get together. We're going to go to every single bar in game. Well, not every single bar. Every single named bar in game. That's just not named bar. And grab a drink, and then we're going to mosey our way throughout the entirety of the Stanton system, going to bar, drinking and having a good time and having merriment. So check this out on Sunday. So we'll be streaming tomorrow and Sunday, but not on Saturday. Saturday, I'm going to be doing some other things as well. And if you are interested in Star Citizen lore, I will have another video out on Saturday covering the little-known UEE's version of DARPA. It is a private university that is very top secret, which a lot of top named people, very important people went to, including Magda Hurston and the founders of Rayari and Basilisk and several other ones, like weapons and armor, and biological like evolution, like all of these sorts of things, which are all heavily connected to UEE military projects. All of these people went there. So we're going to talk a little bit about that university, its shadiness, the people who went there, and what it might mean, like what it's developed and stuff like that. So we're going to do that. I'm going to do that video, which will be a fun little short video. Probably won't be the extremely long, but it'll be a nice little touch. And then next week is the first week of October, which means we are going into Spoopy Month. Which means for those of you who are lore fans, once a week from now to the end of October, I am going to be looking over an Untold Tales, which is a series of Star Citizen lore pieces which talk about strange mysteries that happen in the Star Citizen universe. And specifically, things that have interesting, spooky, or unsolved or unresolved issues, which we can talk about. One of them is going to be about a marine drop pod that drops into a person's house, and that drop pod was 100 years old. A nail that was 100 years old. There's another one that was that we're going to talk about, which is about a ship that constantly calls out for help and is never found, and another about a Zeus which mysteriously disappeared, and which people have found evidence of the crew, but have never found any evidence of the actual bodies of the crew in the Sol system. So we'll just talk about some cool stuff like that. So if you like spoopy stuff for lore pieces, check that out. The Astro Historian, youtube.com/theastrohistorian. We'll also be doing the complete history of the verse this coming month. That'll be coming out for Patreons first, and then the regular everybody else after that. So if you want a first look, check it out. Get on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. You can get access to it. It's gonna be 40 fucking minutes. It's kind of nuts. And then, yeah, we'll be doing the 24-hour captain's table on the Sunday after CitizenCon, which we'll be talking about Star Citizen with a bunch of different people, and we'll be raising money for a good cause for, what is it called? It's called It's just Gamers Charity. I've raised money for them before. Last year we raised for Doctors Without Borders, Gamers Outreach, which helps kids all over the world, kids and families get access to games while they're in hospitals and such like that. So we're raising money for them while doing all these other things as well. So thank you all for joining us. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.